Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text forecast to 603-356-2137.
Hello, listeners. Nick here with your forecast for the weekend of July 11th, 2026. Friday, mostly in the clouds under mostly cloudy skies with a chance of morning rain showers. Slight chance of afternoon rain showers and thunderstorms. High in the mid-50s. Winds, west shifting northwest at 25 to 40 miles per hour with gusts up to 50 miles per hour. Friday night, in and out of the clouds under partly cloudy skies. Low in mid-40s. Winds northwest at 25 to 40 miles per hour with gusts up to 50 miles per hour, decreasing to 15 to 30 miles per hour. And Saturday, mostly in the clear under partly sunny skies. High in the lower 50s. Winds northwest at 15 to 30 miles per hour. So looking pretty nice after Friday morning. Hope you can get out there and crush some peaks. Happy and safe hiking. Enjoy.
Broadcasting from the Woodpecker Studio in the great Live Free or Die state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and beyond. Here are your hosts, Mike and Nick.
All right, Nick, welcome to episode 238. How are you? How was your 4th of July?
I'm doing well, and it was pretty good. It was pretty chill. We kind of hung out on the 4th itself, get out for a hike on the 3rd. But yeah, that was about it. What about you?
Same. I was just chilling out. I couldn't hike. I'm injured.
Oh no!
I'll talk about that later. So I have a muscle strain. So it's no big deal. I can still move around, do stuff. But it was a working 4th of July, Nick. I took my pressure washer up and we cleaned Papa's roof. He has a metal roof that hasn't been cleaned in like 25 years, so that was very satisfying. Very dangerous though, but I got the whole metal roof in a 100-degree day. Got that done, and then I was down at my brother and sister-in-law's farm, Avalon Equestrian.
Okay, yeah, I gave them a follow after your video. I gave them a follow.
Yeah, give them a follow. So if anybody's on Instagram, it's Avalon Equestrian NH. You can do the Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. I think they're on. So they bought a farm. It's a real fixer-upper, though. I think it was an older person that couldn't keep up, so they've got a lot of work to do on the actual farmhouse. But the guts of the indoor training arena and everything is good. But like it was a lot of time like clearing fields and pulling like stakes and metal fences and stuff. So I got my farmer fixed, Nick. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it was interesting watching your dynamic from like power washing roofs to like talking in a horse stall and stuff. And it seemed like you were out and about.
I was out and about, yeah. Cause I was going, well, but the nice thing, it's Brownfield to Wakefield, New Hampshire. So it's only like 40 minutes. So it's an easy going back and forth. And then, on Sunday, I was just splitting wood most of the day. So
Very nice. Very nice.
You can't really sit still, Nick. That's why the hiking is good. Mrs. Mike was kind of like, yeah, you can't really sit still, can you?
She's like, you sure you can't go for a hike today?
Yeah, exactly. But you did a parade here? I see in the notes.
Yeah, I was chat GPTing because I was being lazy, but I was kind of looking for the nearest sort of good parade location. So the Bristol parade's like huge, and that's actually probably only 20-25 minutes from us. But I figured, especially with the 250th, it was going to be crazy, and I didn't want to have to go early. So me and Ash were looking, and coincidentally, like the next closest parade to us is in my hometown of Cumberland, probably like 25-30 minutes away. And one of my buddy's sisters has a house that's right near the parade route in the Attleboro side. So we were planned to park over there initially. They blocked it off right before our house, so we parked near there. But yeah, we ended up going to a parade over there in Cumberland. And one thing that stuck out to me that I don't remember as a kid, like I remember maybe they'd throw Smarties to you like every once in a while, but Ryland got like, or I should say we got like a Halloween level worth of candy almost, with people throwing taffy and like Skittles, and like we also got like little soccer balls from like the Cumberland Youth Soccer Association. We got like, she got ducks because there was like a parade of Jeep people. So we got like 9 little squeaky ducks and stuff, but we came back with like all this stuff. I'm like, see these kids with sacks, and I'm like, what's up with that? And I'm like, oh, now I get it. But I don't remember it being like that as a kid. Granted, it's
no, I don't remember that either. It was an evolution though, because I do feel like that started like from Caroline down to Megan, my youngest. Like there was an evolution, definitely. Like I think at minimum you go to the Santa parade and they give you like a candy cane or something, like a small one. But then at some point it became like, some of the parade float people would figure out like, okay, I'm going to get a bucket and just throw candy, and the kids would like run around. So they go crazy now.
I was cracking up. Someone was giving out freeze pops, which it didn't seem like there was a ton of forethought there, since it was like 93 degrees at like 11 o'clock. So we brought them back and refroze them, which was cool. But me and my buddy Nate were also cracking up. I was in the Cumberland High School band way back and did like marching band and stuff. And it's good to know that CHS is playing the same music that they were playing back in 2007, because they were pretty much still playing Back in Black and Rock Lobster and a bunch of other stuff that we played back then. So some things change and some things don't.
That's good though. It's good music. So anyway, that's good.
It was a fun experience. I hadn't been to a parade in a while, so it was good.
All right, get your candy at your parade. So, okay, welcome to episode 238 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. This week, we're joined by Amy Swift. So, Amy, great guest. She is the manager of the Flume Gorge in Franconia State Park. She's going to join us to talk a little bit about the Flume Gorge, which I think everybody should check out, especially if you have young kids, or if you have somebody that's not a hiker and you want to get them exposed. It's a great area. So, she'll talk about her experiences with the Flume Gorge, talk about her background in the White Mountains, including her time involved in volunteer search and rescue. So, she was an early member of Pemi Search and Rescue. So in the founding, she was part of the team. She eventually was a captain, been on a bunch of searches. So we'll talk to her about that. And in addition to that, it's a busy time of the year for search and rescue. So we had a helicopter rescue in Huntington Ravine, and then there was a missing hiker on Mount Washington, and then a number of other injuries and medical emergencies over the last week or two. So we'll cover all those. All this plus tick bites. We got a missing AT through hiker. Dave Shits in the Woods sent an update from his AT journey. We've got an article from the former head of Pemi Search and Rescue, who recently sat down for an interview and shared his most memorable moments as president of Pemi SAR. We've got fishing game budget details. We got a kid that got rabies after a bat is found in his mouth. We've got Asiatic bears in Japan are attacking people. Got a hiker fatality in Florida due to an alligator attack. Nick buys the Helinox Ultralight camping chair and finally gets with the rest of us on the chairs during the hike. And then he also hiked Mount Norwottuck.
We're gonna say
Norwottuck, and then he went back to the Osceolas for round 2, but this time even hotter. So I'm Mike,
and I'm Nick.
Let's get started.
Let's get started.
Okay, so Nick, now's the part of the show where we talk about our friends from the Alzheimer's Association.
Alzheimer's Association 48 Peaks. Use your passion for hiking to end Alzheimer's. Join 400 plus hikers as they climb New Hampshire's 4,000 footers or create their own challenge to support the mission of the Alzheimer's Association. Fundraising ends August 31st, so there's still plenty of time to get involved. And all those who raise $125 or more will receive the annual Purple Performance t-shirt. Let's turn the White Mountains purple to end alls. Visit alls.org/48peaks to learn more.
All right, Nick, why don't we go right into, this is not Alzheimer's related, but our friend Cindy, who is part of the Alzheimer's Association, had notified us about a family that needs some support. So I know that us hikers are very generous and also very wealthy, Nick. So hopefully we can help support this family. So what's the story here?
Yeah, so we wanted to help our friend Cindy out. So she had a very good friend, Bree, that recently passed away from a battle with glioblastoma. So she got the shocking 2023 diagnosis, had several surgeries, and unfortunately, she did succumb to her illness. Cindy's a great person, so I'm sure her friend Bree was also an amazing person. I've sort of read the accounts on here. But her family's kind of struggling a little bit. There's a GoFundMe over here, and we hope that maybe we can get some donations to the McDewell family, as well as sort of going through this really tough time, and our condolences to the family as well.
Yeah, we'll put this in the show notes and then link this in our socials. If anybody wants to give a handout to the family, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
All right, Nick. So the first story we're going to cover is a rescue on Huntington Ravine. We'll talk about Huntington Ravine a little bit because we also got some traction on some social media posts that we put on the Slasher Instagram and Facebook. So on June 26th, matter of fact, we were hiking. So this was on the day that we went hiking on our friend Jake's 4,000 footer finish on Mount Isolation. So we were Glen, Boulder to Isolation, and as we were coming out Rocky Branch, we saw a Black Hawk head right over our head, and we were sort of like, yeah, that's heading towards, I had said Tuckerman, but it was actually Huntington Ravine. So at around 12:30, Fish and Game was notified on Saturday, June 26th, by New Hampshire State Police about an injured hiker on Huntington Ravine. So the call came in via 911, showed the hiker to be about 0.2 of a mile down from the Alpine Garden Trail Junction. So the incident occurred on the steep slab on the upper reaches of the ravine. My understanding is that instead of there's a part where you climb the fan section and the steep section, and you got to kind of hook to the right a little bit and then come up. It sounds like what happened with this hiker is that he stayed left and kept going up the steep part to the point where I guess he slipped and fell. So the news report goes on to say the caller reported that a male hiker fell approximately 50 feet from 50 feet, resulting in serious injuries. Due to the nature of the terrain and injuries sustained, a call was made to the National Guard for helicopter support. Calls went out to Mountain Rescue Service due to the technical nature of the terrain and AVSAR. Ground teams utilized Mount Washington's auto road to drive up to the point where they could hike down into the ravine from above. The National Guard was able to quickly assemble a crew and flew up from Concord, and they arrived around 2:55. So that makes sense because we were on the summit of Isolation, and then we dumped down. We probably left around 2:00, so we were just getting towards like the last river crossing in Isolation when we saw the helicopter come over our head.
Gotcha.
But they were able to hoist down their paramedic, who provided initial treatment of the hiker and got him into a litter. At 3:30, the patient was hoisted in the helicopter and flown to Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center in Lebanon. So the hiker was 24-year-old from Saint Foy, Quebec, Canada. He suffered serious injuries, but not considered life-threatening. He'd been hiking with 3 other companions and is very lucky to have survived the fall. So 50 feet, that's a pretty, you get, yeah. And then the problem there is 50 feet, like it's a lot steeper than 50 feet, so he could have kept going, I would assume.
Yeah, that sounds very, not a good spot to do that anywhere. So it's like 5 stories almost. That's kind of wild.
Right. Now, the interesting part about this is the last paragraph from the conservation officer's press release. It's a very interesting comment here. So there have been multiple rescue calls on the Huntington Ravine Trail so far this spring and early summer. Huntington Ravine Trail is not a trail for everyday hikers or people who are not prepared with ropes or in climbing gear or proper footwear. The upper section is a dangerous cliff climb and should not be listed as a hiking trail. Fish and Game and search and rescue volunteers have responded to dozens and dozens of stranded or injured hikers over the years. There are warning signs at both ends letting hikers know. Now, I think that there was a bit of confusion about this last paragraph here, Nick, because I think what the Fish and Game officers were talking about is stay on the marked trail, but I think what happened with this guy is that he went to the left, didn't stay on the marked trail, and that's the section that that Fish and Game is saying should not be listed as a hiking trail. So I'm wondering whether all trails maybe it's showing that climb up the wall,
maybe
as an actual part of the trail. So I think that there was a lot of social media talk about like how it shouldn't be listed as a hiking trail, but the Huntington Ravine Trail, which is blazed, is fine. That's part of the AMC. I think what Fish and Game was talking about is that this person branched off away from the trail itself, and that what he did should not be considered part of the hiking trail.
Yeah, I mean, I got to imagine too, there's a lot of different climbers trails branching off in little spots here and there as you get into the ravine too, right? I haven't been in there, but you've been in there several times.
Like, oh yeah, I've been in there. I probably climbed up there like 7 or 8 times now. So you haven't been in there?
No, I've never been in Huntington. Yeah.
All right, we gotta change that. But so anyway, I had just, as this was going on, I was getting a lot of attention on social media. Nick was posting some stuff. Like Nick, as all of a sudden, like started dominating on our social media. So I got jealous, and I was like, I actually have a point of view video. It's a 5-minute video on the Slasher YouTube channel that I did from 2021, where I climbed up Huntington Ravine Trail and recorded it, and I did like a commentary as I was talking. Like I can't shut up about anything, Nick. So anyway. I was climbing up this, so I posted this. I took a 3-minute video because Instagram doesn't do anything longer than 3 minutes. And then we ended up getting 60, 70,000 views, a lot of comments. There was some people that were like, well, I don't know. There was just some people that was sort of like, well, no one should be climbing that, or you. I think there was some people that felt like my video was discounting the safety on it. But I mean, I was very clear in the caption. I was very clear in my commentary. Like, it's steep as hell. Like that section there is super steep. You need to. I mean, you can watch the video, but like essentially, what I tell people is, when you're going up that trail, it's marked. First of all, it's got very clear blazes. Maybe they faded a little bit since 2021, but for 2021, it was freshly blazed.
Okay.
And essentially, the way that the steep part is set up is that it's got a crevice that you can go up. So you can literally stick your foot inside that crevice to get a hold. And I always tell people 3 anchors, 2 feet and a hand, 2 hands and a foot, whatever it is, just do 3 anchors as you're going up there. And then it's about, 200 and 300 foot climb where you're exposed, and it's steep as hell. So if you're not comfortable with it, if you don't have good footwear, if you feel like you can't navigate, then don't do it. If you really want to do it and you're unsure, then hire a guide, hire Redline, hire Northeast Mountaineering, whoever, there's a bunch of quality guides that you can go on there that'll take you up there for sure. But yeah, it's risky. It's probably a little bit steeper than, say, North Tri-Pyramid Slide. But honestly, if you're an experienced hiker and you're sure about your footing, then I wouldn't discourage people from going there. I mean, pick a good day. Don't go on a rainy day. Make sure you have the weather. If you're going in a group, make sure that you keep separation between each other. Don't go too close to anybody else, because if they fall, you're going to fall. But you can check out the video. I'll link it again in the show notes for people to check it out. But I think it gives a pretty good view of what to expect, right, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, you did a great job too in the video. I wanted to mention of literally while you're taking it, saying that I can see this is where people get into trouble, and like if you're not looking for sort of those points, if you're not used to looking for footholds in the rock or whatever to scramble. One thing you did jog my memory on was someone started, and it got shut down, but a thread, I don't know if it was on Instagram or Facebook, I'm trying to remember which socials I was looking at on, but someone brought up a thread, which is probably inevitable, in the Terrifying 25 page, and sort of Trish went on there and kind of commented and shut it down. One of the creator of the list, I believe Trish Ellis, I believe is her name, and she created it with her kids, but on being like, why is this on the Terrifying 25 trail? It kind of caught on like wildfire, and it was interesting reading the opinions, but there's a lot of trails in the Whites that are inherently dangerous. I mean, I know it's a slab climb. I haven't done it, so maybe I'll probably be pooping bricks or whatever when I'm up there. But a lot of those trails, the same applies. Like if it's wet and you don't have good footwear, like you're gonna be in bad shape going on a lot of the trails that are considered quote unquote easy in the Whites. So you got to look at weather conditions. I was curious, was it wet at all that day when you guys were hiking up there? Was there any chance that Huntington was wet, or was it probably bone dry, or hard to say?
Yeah, it was a little cloudy, but I don't think there was any.
No,
it was pretty dry actually.
And one thing I can add, just from my experience doing scrambly hikes and doing maybe some sort of off trail stuff, is if you end up in a situation where you're gonna climb up something that you can't back down, you can't get back down unless you know how to down climb, which most of us hikers aren't in the category of being able to down climb stuff. Like you really got to pay attention to those moments. So. I mean, he might have ended up in this place where if he had stopped for like 5 minutes to be like, hey, like, is there any chance I'm going to lose traction on this? Is there any chance I can get down? You got to pause sometimes and really think about that type of stuff, especially when you're by yourself. I don't know if it sounded like he was with a group, but you got to be really careful. And there's a lot of places, not even Huntington Ravine, that you can end up in trouble in the whites. A lot of spots in Franconia Notch, like I've been open with the first time I did the Watcher. I ended up on a climbing trail and kind of slid down and got away with one there. And that was pretty stupid on my part, but you gotta be careful when you're out in those untraveled and you get on the ledge and stuff like that. You just gotta use your noggin, and always helps to go with people. Like even if I go in there, I would 100% go with you or someone that's been in there a few times first. Before going in there.
Honestly, like when I tell people at Huntington Ravine, like the biggest issue I have with Huntington is the lower Boulder field and making my way around the caves and everything. I hit my head on the same rock every single time. I've done it like 3 times. I hit my head, but yeah, it's dangerous, but like, look, I've done worse things. Obviously, like Nick and I and Stomp, like we have a lot of experience. We've been in a lot of places, so like our confidence level and our tolerance for risk is probably higher than some other people. So everybody's situation is different, but I do think there were some commenters that were sort of like, they want to make a blanket statement about like, no one should be climbing it, or you make it seem too easy. And it's really, everybody has to know their own limits, and if you're not sure but you really want to do it, then hire a guide, like I always say.
Yeah, that was a good way to round that back. I mean, we got like our buddy Andy, who like scrambles up everything, and there's stuff that I've seen him do that I'm like, I 100% would never think of doing.
Right.
But again, you got people have different comfort zones of what they're doing, and so you gotta take that as it comes.
Yeah. Anyway, but so moving on here. So next story here, we have like just a reminder here. It's tick season again. So there's some articles. We'll put this in the show notes here about the alpha gal. We've talked about this the last couple of episodes. So just be careful. Use permethrin. I think it sounds like, Nick, your area is really like Southeast Mass, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, really bad right now for the ticks that have this alpha gal issue with being allergic to red meat and dairy allergies. So just be careful on it. And then the other thing I'll call out when it comes to bugs or whatnot is that the deer flies are starting to come out. So if you are going to be in a place where you have a lot of deer flies, definitely recommend getting the deer fly tape and putting it on your hat. And believe me, you'll be happy to have it.
Yes. Yeah, I've had twice just running over here, stepping off the road. Like once I've ended up with ticks on my ankle. So you gotta, we're really bad down here in Southeast Mass, but it doesn't take much sometimes. Like you just hop in and forage grass for a second and you get them. So.
Yeah. Oddly, I was clearing, like I was on my brother's farm that they have like these tall grass fields everywhere, and I had to get in there to pull stakes and pull wire out. And I was like so paranoid that I was going to get ticks on me. I didn't have a single tick. But that's in like Wakefield, New Hampshire, so I don't know if that's. I don't know, maybe they're just not as prevalent there. But anyway, and then the other thing, Nick, that I have here, and then I want you to give a Dave Shits in the Woods update, is there is a police search for a missing Appalachian Trail hiker in Pennsylvania. This is the time of the year. I see this on social media, Nick. The parents are messaging the social media groups being like, I haven't heard from my kid for a couple of days. But this one seems a little bit more concerning, honestly. So, missing hiker on the Appalachian Trail who was last known to be in Pennsylvania, but hasn't been heard from in at least 2 weeks. So, Isaiah Fox, 26-year-old, they said he's an American indigenous man. So, I guess he's Native American, 5 feet 8 inches tall. An Appalachian Trail Conservatory official said reports indicate Fox's mother last heard from him on either June 18th or June 23rd. Fox reportedly told his mother he had reached a campsite in Pennsylvania and was hiking the AT, but no other information. Police are on the lookout for the guy, so we'll post this on our show notes, and if anybody sees it. Where's Dave Shits? What has he been up to?
So in some good news, Dave gave us his update for this week. So he said, quote, "My novel is complete. At the time of the podcast episode, I was making my way through Pennsylvania, joined for a few days by Liz Fay. Thankfully, I've since finished Pennsylvania, and it's currently my least favorite state. Not because of the rocks they take so much pride in. Those were actually kind of fun, but because of the state is just boring. There's no great views and there's no history, really. It's just rocks and snakes and looking at your feet all day to step on one correctly and avoid stepping on the other altogether. New Jersey was next, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I really loved it. Great trails, good views, fun rocks, a crazy long boardwalk, and plenty of bears. There was ice cream on trail a few times and camping at a drive-in movie theater to add to the fun. I finished up New Jersey and crossed into New York. In parentheses, I'm surprised there wasn't a tool booth at the border. Dave's always adding humor for us here, even in text. The heat last week was brutal and added to the challenge on the more technical terrain here. Overall, it's been good, but it's New York, so it also sucks at the same time. It's been the most rock scrambling I've done on the trip, which is fun. It has beautiful woods and great views. They also do a shitty job of blazing the trails. There's no hostels or shuttles, and everything is expensive. The reroutes suck as well. I'll stop there. Maybe it will get better after Nobby gets here Monday. So our friend Mark Nobby is headed out to join him. I did get a ride as well as a Slack pack from a Slasher listener, Joe Klopkowski. So a huge shout out and thank you to Joe. Are New York listeners better trail angels than New Hampshire? We'll see. I just passed mile 1400 and I'm making progress every day. Thanks again for all the support and help to keep me going. So I enjoyed that brain dump from Dave. It was very passive aggressive towards New York, which I enjoyed.
It was. And I do have to give Dave a shout out. So when he was on the last episode, he had named our, so we have a little hiking text group. There's probably, I think there's 11 or 12 guys now. It's a mix of like, me and Nick, and then there's like friends that we picked up over time, and then I've added a few friends from like my Amesbury crew and my work crew. So, and the names are all like religious names, like Peter and Paul and whatever. So Dave had called us the Apostles, so we changed the name of our text group to the Apostles, and I think it's kind of stuck, Nick.
Yeah, it was a pretty good comment. It was pretty funny because there is like half the group that's like, I mean, we have biblical names too, but there is like two Pauls, Peter. You get a Jacob, so it's kind of, I thought it was very funny, and it was just an example of Dave's quick humor, but it's definitely catchy.
Yeah, and he made a nice little, like, he used AI to take all of our pictures, and he made like a Last Supper photo, and Steve eats shit. He used a cookie with a bite out of it for his head, so it was so good. It was really great. So good.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was making the rounds on the socials this week too. At first I looked at it and I was like, what is that? That's great.
Right. All right. So we have a few New Hampshire stories that we wanted to dig in here. So Amy Smart, who we're going to have on later, she actually references Alan Clark, who is the former president of the Pemigewasset Valley Search and Rescue Team. So Alan, longtime president, I think from the very beginning of the establishment of Pemi SAR up until a couple of years ago. But he sat down for an interview in the Caledonian Record to give his, the title here is Longtime Hiker Rescuer, recounts hardest, most satisfying rescues, and then also gives some common hiking pitfalls and tips to safety. So it starts off by saying that Alan Clark, he's the fire chief of Sugar Hill, has been a founding member of the Pemi Valley Search and Rescue Team. In that time, he's participated in more than 400 hiker rescue missions, averaging around 20 or more a year. He goes on to say, for searches, they send us any place in the state. We have a good reputation, point us in the right spot, and there's a good chance we're going to find the person. And then they go on to ask him about his hardest rescue, and he describes and I think a lot of our listeners are familiar with this, Sunday, November 20th, 2022, just before Thanksgiving and 3 days before she would have turned 20 years old, Emily Sotelo of Westford, Mass., a Vanderbilt University student, mathematician, volunteer, EMT, and avid outdoorswoman, set out for a solo hike on the summit of Mount Lafayette. And Clark goes on to say that he's been on many difficult rescues, but the Sotelo rescue was particularly hard, both physically and emotionally. And Clark goes on to say that the first night when we put the crews out, the weather conditions were absolutely miserable. At that time, we had some hope we would find her maybe injured. As it worked out, that was not the case. It was very tough all around. As listeners know, Sotelo didn't come down as planned. There were 3 rescue crews that were sent out with a goal to clear the main trail and come across Franconia. Conditions were brutal. The team went through hell, Clark said. Temperatures were very, very cold. High winds were blowing ice, and knowing they were looking for a 20-year-old woman just made it much more miserable because we knew when that crew came down without her that she had passed away. We just didn't know where. So Clark goes on to say, unfortunately, they were much too late due to the weather conditions. She went off trail and got into the Lafayette Brook drainage. She was extremely smart, but unfortunately made some bad decisions. The first was when she got out of her mother's car, and from then on it went downhill. So he goes on to describe the rest of that search, and unfortunately Sotelo died of hypothermia. They then go on to ask Clark about his worst hiking accident that he experienced, and he talks about the fact that there were many fatalities, and he says on average around half a dozen fatalities per year. He goes on to describe a fatality that happened in Lonesome Lake Trail in Franconia, that a young boy on his birthday wanted to come to the White Mountains to go for a hike. He wanted his grandfather to come as well, so the family went up Lonesome Lake. They diverted off into something that was much steeper, and the grandfather unfortunately went into cardiac arrest quite a ways up. The team was called. There was some rescuers that had administered CPR, and unfortunately, they had to make the decision after a while to stop the CPR, so it was difficult. By the time the team got there, it had been quite a while. It was a hard thing because he was with his family. Probably from an emotional standpoint, that was the most difficult, because in that particular case, they looked at me as if I had killed Grampy because we stopped, but it was clearly the right decision. It wasn't just arbitrary. It was based on our protocols and amount of time that had gone by, but that one was tough, so... And then he goes on to talk about gratifying rescues where they had a 10-year-old girl had run off. I guess she was dealing with some family issues, a recent divorce, and the father was in the new girlfriend, and the daughter wasn't having it. So she had gotten off ahead of them. So they ended up realizing that she had run off and was hiding. And Clark actually went across the street and was able to see the girl hiding in there. And she eventually came running down, jumped into his arms and knocked him down. And she was pretty happy to see him because she got scared. So kind of cool stories, Nick.
Yeah, it's sort of fascinating little insight into sort of what the Pemi SAR folks deal with, and sort of all the search and rescue folks sort of deal with. I think the emotional toll is not something a lot of us think of, a lot of what they go through. Like they want to find these people when something does go awry. Like that's kind of what they're out there to do. And obviously there's some really great times. Did have the pleasure of meeting Alan a bit back last year. Helped him stomp out with something, and very humble folks, all those search and rescue folks. So it's kind of amazing some of the stuff they do, and we're super grateful for that.
Right, yeah. And Alan, he cites three main, or a few hiker pitfalls. He said not heeding the weather forecast, improper footwear, lack of cold weather clothing, and then a reluctance to turn around when conditions tip into the danger zone. He basically goes on to say, like, look, with the touch of a phone, you can see the weather forecast anywhere in the world from that moment to hours out or longer. He's like, the long-term forecasts have gotten pretty good over the years. So we encourage people to keep an eye on that. And then he also talks about like time schedules. He says, visitors got this time schedule to do a hike. They don't want to let the weather and common sense get in the middle of it, and they're trying to accomplish what they've wanted to accomplish while ignoring the weather. But his recommendation is to know what the weather is, not the weather in Boston or wherever you are, but the weather in Franconia Notch. The weather in the Notch is unlike anywhere else. Some days it's better, some days it's a lot worse. He talks about dressing for cold conditions, and dressing in layers is paramount. He said deals with a lot of hypothermia issues, and then he says be prepared for emergencies, headlamp, flashlight. Make sure that you're ready to go when it comes to that. So a lot of things that we touch on here.
Yeah, 100%. He kind of closes out saying that hiking is extremely enjoyable. It's very relaxing for people, and people shouldn't be afraid to hike in the whites, but they definitely need to be prepared. They are hiking in the whites. Yeah,
Alan has seen more than I think anybody.
100%.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for your service, and he's a great guy. So good to hear from him. So we'll link this in the show notes so people can read that article. And then next up here, Nick, we had a missing person. This one ended successfully on Mount Washington. So what happened here? This guy was in the wind for like 16 hours, it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like he was lucky to be found, but yeah, it was kind of a bit of an ordeal. So this was on Friday afternoon, July 3rd. A lost hiker who was missing for over a day was located alive and well on Mount Washington. So approximately 7 p.m. on Thursday, July 2nd, Fish and Game Department conservation officers were advised that a 23-year-old international traveler from Brazil was overdue from a hike on Washington. He had separated from his hiking partner while ascending McDewell Ravine Trail and had not been seen or heard from since 2:45 p.m., so had been gone almost 4 hours, a little over 4 hours at that point. By 9 o'clock at night, the hiker still had not made it out of the woods, so a search was initiated. The COs and volunteers from AVSAR ended up working through the night to sweep the trails and attempted to locate the missing hiker. After the morning on July 3rd, more searchers arrived and began going through the woods and streams and off-trail areas of McDewell Ravine, which they had decided at that point was the most likely area where he ended up. And aside from the brutally difficult terrain, searchers endured some of the hottest conditions that will likely be seen on Mount Washington this year. And yeah, that anybody that's been watching the forecast, especially the way the front pushed through, I think really Thursday afternoon into Friday was really the toastiest of the heat up there. It was a little bit more Friday, Saturday almost, I think, as you went into like southeastern Mass where we are, but it was hot as heck up there. So drone teams, this is interesting. Drone teams assisted with aerial support, and staff from the AMC and Mount Washington State Park kept a lookout for the hiker should he show up at a remote location. So at 3:27 p.m., 16 and a half hours of searching, the conservation officers were notified that the hiker had just arrived at AMC Lakes of the Clouds hut. So he was found to be tired, hungry, and thirsty, but was otherwise uninjured. The AMC provided him with food and water, and rescuers were sent to the hut to assist him out of the woods. After rescuing, the lost hiker hiked down with assistance and arrived safely at the McDewell Ravine trailhead at 8:35 p.m. Once he arrived back at the road, he was assessed by EMS staff from the Twin Mountain Fire Department. He declined transport to a hospital, but he was given a courtesy ride to a hotel in Littleton. So both the hiker and his family were very grateful for all the efforts put forth on their behalf. And the article does just call out a massive collaboration between Fish and Game, the Forest Service, New Hampshire State Police, Mount Washington State Park employees, Twin Mountain Fire and Rescue, volunteer teams from AVSAR. You got the AMC involved in there, and the Randolph Mountain Club all assisted in locating the hiker. And they also assisted in completing the rescue of another injured hiker on the Pine Link Trail, which was happening at the same time. So that's over on Madison. So that the crews could continue their focus on finding that missing hiker around Washington. So some volunteers sort of stepped up to allow the search to continue. And they also wanted to shout out the COG who provided facilities, equipment, and transportations for the searchers. So a lot of effort in this one. They got the guy down. Wonder where the heck he ended up for like 12 hours.
I wonder if like the reroute of the ammo trail got like, I don't know, maybe he got confused. Who knows? I haven't been over there, so I don't know how significant that is or where he might have gone. Maybe he got abducted by aliens, Nick.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we have a Betty Barnley Lee situation over here, but that's a long time to be gone. I mean, at least he was okay, but that's a long time to disappear in that area and then end up back on trail.
Yeah, the guy's from Brazil. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming he doesn't know the area that well. I don't know what the deal is with his hiking partner that he separated from, but kind of a weird story, Nick.
Yeah, and 4 hours to me seems like a long. I mean, again, maybe they don't know the trails well, but 4 hours seems like a long time to realize that he had veered off the trail and they weren't together anymore. But maybe if you're kind of separated in a group and you're not familiar, it's a little bit easier to do.
Nick, if me and you were hiking and we got separated, how many hours would you give me before you called search and rescue?
Ooh, I don't know. Being us, I think maybe that might be hypocritical here. I'd probably give you longer than I should. Though I think I'd go try to find you first. If I would like to think, depending on the weather and the trail, I would like to think one of us would go try to find the other one first before just completely waiting for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't call. I would just go out and I'd call Ashley and be like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. You're like, I don't know.
I don't know what happened. I'd be like, he wouldn't want me to call.
He's coming down eventually. I see a headlamp up there. It's probably him.
I would text the Apostle text group and just say, can everyone get up here and search for me?
I don't know. I think Ash would probably want to kill me more than anybody else, actually, on the contrary.
That's true.
So
Kristen, Mrs. Mike she's like, don't ever get in trouble out in the woods. Like,
yeah, I know when this winter, when I told her I'd turned back on Colden, she said that was good because she'd want to kill me if I came and had to get walked out by a SAR team or something. So I think I'd be more worried about her than being shamed by anybody else.
That's true. Anyway, well, okay. So now we know Mike will not call and Nick's not sure. So don't ever get lost around us. We'll freeze up.
I won't call Mrs. Mike based on that information.
No, don't do that. So,
Okay.
All right. So next article here. So Fish and Game put out an article about their funding sources. So they also linked like a more detailed budget book, which is it's like 50 pages of detail. So bottom line for Fish and Game funding is the budget's around $49 million. And they've got their funding sources is like, so 25% of the funding sources is from hunting and fishing license revenue. They get another 25% from federal funds, or 24%. They get about 18% of their budget from the OHRV, so those side-by-sides or four-wheelers, registration fees. So when you total that all up, that's about 70% of their funding. And then they also have a big bucket, which is called ARPA Gopher funding, which is temporary money, which is about $8.4 million. And that's about 17% of their budget. So I don't know how much longer that amount comes in, but they're going to have to basically close that gap if it's temporary funding. Then they get like 5% from other agencies. They get a gas tax transfer. They've got a general fund. And they've got miscellaneous revenue, which is like $1.5 million, which I'm assuming that's like partly the hike safe card. And a couple of things that jump out on this. So basically, common perception is that Fish and Game's funded almost entirely by hunters and fishermen. That's not true anymore. About 25% is covered for that, and then vehicle registration and then federal money covers so that between the fishing and hunting licenses, federal money, and the registration for the vehicles, that's about 67%, and then another 17% comes from the federal government. Then they have so these federal grants broken down: wildlife restoration, sports fish restoration, NOAA marine program, state wildlife grants, and then indirect grant reimbursements. Hike safe revenue is pretty small. So fiscal year 2024 was $372,000. In 2025, there was a 12.6% increase, so $419,300 for hike safe cards. So hike safe is a voluntary program, and they've seen a 12.6% increase. They attribute that to a larger marketing effort, including placing hike safe posters in all the DMV offices. So I think you can probably get a hike safe card there if you want. There's also a $1 search and rescue surcharge on boat, OHRV, and snowmobile registrations, and the hike safe card also has a $1 fee built into it. So total revenue from that is about $630,000. And then, there's some other things here. So I guess the themes here is the hunting license sales are essentially flat. Costs continue to rise. The temporary federal money is ending, and the department says it needs a new long-term funding model to address that $8 or $9 million that the federal government is ending. The state legislature's funding study recommended looking at hike safe fees, boat access fees, getting more money from the state fund in New Hampshire, which ain't going to happen, charging other agencies for service, recovering more search and rescue costs, or better leveraging federal matching funds. So, but yeah, it's interesting. So it's a pretty big operation there, Nick. It's $49 million budget.
Yeah, it's impressive. While you were chatting too, I was sort of looking at the numbers for resident fishing licenses, and it's interesting to see it super peaked like in 2020 and 21 right now. Yeah. So a lot of people are, and it's funny because in Mass I was doing the same thing, but we certainly are thankful for what they do, and it seems like they generally have their stuff together.
Right. Yeah. And the federal money they do get, which is like 25% of the budget, they're like, a lot of that's earmarked for specific things. So it has to go towards like fish restoration or wildlife restoration programs. So they have to earmark those funds. So it's not like, I don't think that they can redirect all those funds to different areas.
Mm.
So anyway, Nick, that is the story with a deep dive into fish and game budget choices. So I'll put the article and then also the budget book so people can check that out. And then moving on to national stuff here, Nick, we've got a boy dies of rabies after a bat was found in his mouth. This happened in Canada. So what a nightmare.
Yeah, that sounds awful. So an 11-year-old Canadian boy died from rabies after waking up with a bat in his nose and mouth. So this ended up happening during a visit to a cottage in northern Ontario in 2024. So woken up by shock, the boy, who wasn't named in the report, smacked the bat off his face. His father then caught it in a cooking pot and released it outside. Doctors from the University of Manitoba had said in the report. So since the child had no visible bite marks and the bat's behavior didn't seem erratic, the boy's parents did not seek medical attention. And 19 days later, the boy began to experience progressive tingling sensation, numbness on the right side of his face, followed by facial swelling and a loss of appetite. 4 days after the symptoms began, a local urgent care clinic prescribed a medication used to treat herpes, as it was presumed he had symptoms of Bell's palsy caused by the herpes virus. 3 days later, he was brought to a city hospital in the emergency department in Ontario. By this point, he had painful swallowing and vomiting. Then it sounds like after that he had ulcers in his gums, mild impairment in a nerve on the right side of his face that provides sensation control. So this is just giving you a little bit insight to what rabies actually does to you, which is awful. And then despite it, sort of the family told the doctors about the incident with the bat. It sounds like the next day the emergency doctor notified the local public health authority, but the hospital actually ended up discharging the child. Still thinking at this point he had herpes gingivio-stomatitis. Might have pronounced that incorrectly, which just leads to sores in the lips and the mouth caused by herpes kind of the mouth.
This is just a nightmare, Nick.
Yeah, this is just
a nightmare.
Crazy.
And they hadn't had a case since 1967, so I'm assuming the hospital didn't exactly have rabies at the top of their mind, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like even if you end up with a bat even in your house, I think a lot of times they advise you to do that just because if a bat does bite you, I think their teeth and everything are so small, you're probably not likely to hear that as a human. I know I've heard that somewhere before. If
I even see a bat, Nick, I'm getting a rabies test.
Yeah, this is 100%. Not to make light of the boy's situation, but this is 100% where if you find a bat anywhere on your child, I know a lot of people have old houses in sort of New England and stuff where there might be bats in your attic or things like that. Definitely just do your due diligence on this one.
Have you ever had bats in your house, Nick?
No, I have not. So I say that we had a bat fly in my parents' house once when I was really young. I think maybe just a freak, sort of it was chasing bugs and it came back through the screen door or something weird like that. But it flew right out, it wasn't in the house long. So not too many experiences. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, we had them up, and so in my house in North Reading, we had one come in. They always fly down the wood stove.
Oh, okay.
And then up in Maine at the camp, they had them. We get a towel and then a broom and whack the thing, and then full with a towel and open the wood stove. It was a whole thing. All the women are screaming everywhere, and then we get rid of the thing, and then it would fly right back.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
So we had to go up on the roof and it was crazy. So yeah, I don't like them. They give me the creeps.
We used to have squirrels get in our chimney at my parents' house too, which is a giant pain in the butt.
Not good.
Yeah, we had one die in there once. It was not a good situation.
I don't like creatures in my house.
No. So if you have a bat and it ends up on your kid's face or in his mouth or whatever, just make sure you get a rabies shot.
All right. Well, Nick, moving on. We like a good bear mauling story here, so we're going to move on to Japan.
Yeah, so moving over into Japan, we got man mauled to death by bear in mountains as police investigate the sixth deadly attack within weeks in Japan. So just they found a body of a 63-year-old victim discovered in the northern Aomori prefecture. So I don't know if that's the states in Japan. I'm not up to snuff with my Japan geography, but more or less the 63-year-old victim was found in the mountains on Monday. So it goes on to mention that the police are still investigating the cause of the man's death, but the local official revealed the bite marks that had been found on his body. So The incident comes amid a sharp rise in bear activity across Japan, and they mentioned that in the last 3 months, fatal attacks have jumped 5-fold compared to last year. So there's been 5 people killed in Japan by these bears since April, and these deaths follow a grim record in 2025 where 13 people were killed across the country. And apparently they said that bear sightings have soared with more than 50,000 reported nationwide. And experts have yet to put down what's actually causing this spike in the animal's population. So kind of interesting over there. It seems like a massive increase in their population, or maybe people going to certain areas, or they're migrating and getting curious. It's kind of crazy. I think if like the same thing happened there, that'd be pretty alarming in Massachusetts if it started happening here.
They seem to be like to go after old people working in factories. Yes. Seems to be their pattern there. I don't know what's going on there.
Opportunistic eaters there.
All right. Well, I just put into the computer here the differences between Japanese Asiatic black bears and Northeast U.S. black bears. So the Asiatic black bears are smaller, but I feel like Japanese people are smaller, Nick.
Yeah, it's probably sort of an even playing field there.
Yeah. Ratio.
Yes, there we go.
So that's what I was saying. So they said that the males weigh between 130 and 250. I feel like I could take a 130-pound bear.
Yeah, I don't know. It's got big claws. They have big claws, though. I don't know. You think you have it? So what you're saying is you think we need to bring your discussion about attacking black. Look, we got to consider the Asiatic bear species in the ring.
Yeah, I don't know. 130 pounds, I feel like I'm not that intimidated, but I feel like a little bit big. Then 130 pounds to 250 pounds. The Northeast U.S. black bear in our neighborhood, 200 to 500 plus pounds.
Yeah.
So ours are like can go above 500 pounds. Shoulder height is between 2.5 to 3 feet in Japan, 3 to 3.5 feet, and then I guess the color. I guess they have like a white necklace around their neck in Japan, and then ours are more brown cinnamon and all usually no chest markings. I said temperament-wise, the Japanese bears are more defensive, which makes sense why they're attacking the old Japanese people outside their factories. And then Northeast black bears are more likely to flee. So
I just got a visual. You guys keep talking about you're going to make me ride a bike at Baxter, and I get a visual of, obviously this could never happen, but if you were sitting by the fire and we just brought out a cage and it had an Asiatic bear in it, and we're like, okay, Mike, let's go.
Let's see how you do. So, I don't think it would end well for me. All right. And then moving on to
another pleasant story.
Another story here. So a hiker in Florida dies after hiking with her boyfriend after they went for a swim and an alligator ripped both of her arms off. This is
this is awful. So yeah,
I couldn't even write up a horror movie worse than this.
This is like the slasher movie edition. Here we got. So 31-year-old woman died after an alligator ripped off both her arms while she was hiking with her boyfriend and best friend in Central Florida. So if this story doesn't deter you from ever hiking in Florida, I don't know what will. The vicious attack unfolded as the trio took a dip in the shallows of the Econ-Lockhatchee River in Little Big Econ State Forest, 20 miles northeast of Orlando. So they waded in to cool off around 1:30 p.m. where the alligator pounced on this woman, who has yet to be identified. Just an awful night. They mentioned an awful 911 call where they could hear screaming and crying. The boyfriend mentioned he was trying to get her arms away from the alligator's mouth as he made the call. Then he followed up saying both her arms are off. Gosh, this is awful. I don't know. I don't know if the article needed to narrate everything that he said. It's almost like too much.
Yeah, but they did actually identify her. Her name's Brittany Clark. She's 31. Okay. She was in shoulder deep water in the Little Big Econ River with her boyfriend and another friend. A matter of fact, I think that I'd seen an article about it. Beautiful woman. 31 years old. I guess they had sort of felt something and they were like, oh, imagine if it was an alligator, and it turned out to be a 13-foot alligator, which is like a nightmare. And unfortunately, I think the problem you have with somebody that's in that is you've got to stop the bleeding. And I think if you don't have a way to stop the bleeding, then it's going to be very difficult. So terrible story. I feel like in Florida, like I don't mess around with water in Florida. Like I'll go to the beaches a little bit, go up to my ankles, but I'm not going in any water otherwise in Florida. Absolutely not.
Especially that like dark, muddy water. You can't see anything in it.
I've seen way too many alligators hanging around these ponds and the golf courses and stuff. Absolutely not.
Yeah, the first time I ever went down there was Ash's aunt and uncle had a place in Kissimmee, and I was golfing and kind of thought the alligator thing, like, didn't take it seriously. Never been down there, and there was like 3 alligators hanging out on the course while I was out there, and you're just kind of teeing off, and you see one like looking at you, and you're like, okay, this is a real thing.
She looked like a real fun person, free spirit, beautiful woman, and it's just terrible for the boyfriend, for the friend, for the family. I mean, I can only imagine.
Yeah. I think it's interesting at the end, the article calls out that alligators attacks on humans are rare in the U.S., but they do note that this is the 3rd alligator attack in Central Florida over the past week. So maybe, just stay out of the water down there, like Mike's saying. If you're out hiking, especially in the woods.
Are you ready for Slasher's Gear Review?
We have anything cheery coming up after this?
Yeah, let's talk about. This is morbid. We had a kid dying of rabies. We got bear attacks. We got hikers getting their arms ripped off.
Tough.
So we'll talk about gear stuff here. So there's a flying umbrella. Some guy. I feel like this can't be real. This is gonna. Did Stomp pull this?
I think Stomp pulled this. If you didn't pull it, Stomp pulled it.
I haven't looked at this one yet, but this kid invented a flying umbrella. So it's a hand-free umbrella that this guy, John C., he's got a YouTube channel called I Build Stuff, and he turned it a sci-fi dream into reality with the flying umbrella, which is a drone-powered umbrella that hovers above you to keep you dry without any effort. So he had done a prototype in 2024, and then now he's improved on that prototype, which is pretty cool. So it's basically, it looks exactly like an umbrella, but it's got 4 drones on the end of it, and then it's this MIT kid walking. He's soaking wet under it, so it makes no sense. His marketing's terrible, but it's a good idea, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's basically just a really wide, flat drone.
Yeah,
but it's neat. I don't think we'll be taking these on the trail anytime soon.
Yeah, no, it's not worth the trouble. And it's like, it's very loud right on your head too with the drone. So nice try, kid. Yeah. Not going to happen though.
No, as far as things I am taking on the trail now, I joined the cult of chairs that we have. And I actually picked this up when REI gives you your dividends when you get those like at the beginning of the year we got them. But I grabbed one of these Helinox Chair Zeros, and I was skeptical of you guys at first, so I bought it. I hadn't used it yet, but that thing is clutch. It's really nice if you take it with you. It's super light. I threw it out when I was out with Rylan, and it was fantastic. It was really nice.
A million times better than sitting on a log or on the ground, and it's only a pound, so it's absolutely my 11th essential at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of has like a drawstring almost running through tubes sort of in the middle of it, so it assembles really easily. You kind of just stack it all together, and then it's got this nylon mesh that basically goes over all these endpoints. You can set it up in like less than a minute, and it's great. It's got, I think you can get, even the bigger ones I think have like a 250 pound weight limit. I think the normal ones are like 225 or something. So really, really nice thing. And it's a lot, I don't know how to describe it to you. It is a lot nicer than I expected it would be. Like you said, I underestimated how nice it is not to sit on the ground when you're out on a hike and just chilling. It's really nice.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a game changer. I highly recommend it. If you're going to be out there, spend any time on a summit, like get the Helinox chair, 100%.
Yep.
So.
Hey, what's that sound? It must be time for the pop culture segment with Mike and Stump.
All right, Nick, moving on to pop culture talk and then music minutes. So the lead singer of the Village People, Victor Willis, has died. So that is a cultural icon from the 70s and 80s that has passed away. The police officer, Nick, from the... Who's left? I feel like the Indian guy and the construction guy are left.
Okay. So it's the YMCA folks is what we're looking at over here.
Yeah, the macho man in the Navy. Yeah, they had, matter of fact, they had their own movie in the 70s, a TV movie. So yeah, cultural icons for sure.
Awesome. Well, rest in peace, and music will be remembered for a long time and years to come, I'm sure.
Yeah. So cultural icon. But speaking of music, Nick, this is the part of the show where you do the Music Minute.
Yeah, so we had, I think you ended up, I don't know if I think I put a Naked and Famous song in one of the reels, and you were like, oh, hey, by the way, I like this song by the Naked and Famous, and I have these songs too. And I was like, Mike, we found common musical ground. I feel like it's been, not that there's nothing that we like that's the same, but this is more one of the newer, as you'd say, an indie artist that you like that I also like. So I figured we had to throw this album out. So the album for this week is Passive Me, Aggressive You. Came out in 2010 by the Naked and Famous. So this was released in September of 2010. It was the debut album put out by the Auckland band. Auckland is in New Zealand, and it debuted at #1 in New Zealand, launching their international breakthrough. The record blends pretty seamlessly synth pop, indie rock, dream pop, electro rock, shoegaze, sort of combining all these electronics with really soaring guitar textures, and sort of as it was put in a Wikipedia article I read, festival ready choruses, which I would agree with. So the vocalists are Alyssa Zylith and Tom Powers, who trade lead vocals throughout the album. Tom Powers also plays guitar, and he actually is their producer for the most part. He does all the production on their albums, which is kind of neat. And that kind of creates most of their sound, is sort of these trade in vocals. I think his guitar work, while maybe not super technical, and his production definitely gives the Naked and Famous sort of their signature sound. The breakout singles from this album were Youngblood. That's the first song I heard by them, and Punching in a Dream sort of became indie anthems in the early 2010s. Youngblood reached #1 in New Zealand and earned widespread international exposure through TV, film, and commercials. I think this finally broke out. I remember one of my friends sort of telling me that this got over to like one of the Boston radio stations probably a few years later. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been listening to that song for a couple of years already. So I kind of felt like in the know there. Critics praised the album's infectious hooks and polished production, and many highlighting its massive choruses while noting influences from sort of the 80s, probably above anything else. At the 2011 New Zealand Music Awards, the album was the dominant winner and took Album of the Year and Best Alternative Album, and the band also won Best Group and Breakthrough Artist of the Year. And a little bit my personal relationship with this album, and I'd put it in my top 10, but this came out basically when I was a sophomore in college. I probably heard it around when I was a junior or senior. Remember listening to it like skateboarding, surfing, just college parties, like sort of all that super nostalgic, like those times in my life. Youngblood, I don't know how many times I listened to that song, probably way too much. I really think to harp on the production again on this album, it's really top notch. It's done really well. I think it's got a little bit of everything. Guitars, synth, dreamy vocals, and it's a whole album as it in itself, in terms of, I mean, like, it's just the whole thing flows one into another. It's meant to be listened to as an album. There's definitely the singles on it, but there's sort of an overarching theme with sort of the guitar riffs and stuff going through here. And I think it's interesting too, because there's a few New Zealand bands like this, like Gypsy and the Cat and a few others, where it's like New Zealand was kind of reflecting on the 80s synth pop and 90s grunge coming from America and sort of doing their own take on it. I think that this is their strongest album. Close second probably being in Rolling Waves. And I've also seen them 3 times live, and they put on a great show. So if you do
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so I do like to do some comparative artists if you like them. We probably throw out a lot of terms where you'll know if you like them. If you're not into like synths and like that 80s sound, you're probably not going to like them a ton. But if you like MGMT, M83, Churches, Passion Pit, they're right sort of in that vein. I think there were quite a few bands in the 2010s that came out that sounded similar to them, but nothing quite like them. So...
Yeah, I think I stumbled on these guys through like maybe a movie soundtrack or something like that. Like I have Girls Like You, which is on that album in my heavy rotation. I think that was like one of my most listened to songs. It's just a cool, I don't know, it's just an eerie song. It's like it's kind of a bitter song, but It's just, I don't know, there's something about that song. I just always have liked it. And I've listened to other music from them. Maybe things haven't stuck as much, but it's interesting. I saw you used it on one of the Instagram posts, and I was like, I know that band. And and then it clicked for me. I was like, oh yeah, that's Girls Like You. And then, I've been listening to them a little bit more. So yeah, it's a good pick. And usually it's tough for me because I like the commercial stuff, and this is a little bit more obscure. So
yeah, I think there's, even on that album though, there's probably 5 or 6 tracks that, even if you're not into more, like, I don't even want to say progressive, because it's like, if you like, it's almost like house music, some of it. I feel like it's
right.
in this weird vein, but it's pretty accessible, I think, to a lot of people. And they did like an acoustic album a little while back, which was really neat too, of a lot of their tracks. So I hope they get back together and they tour eventually, but we'll see.
Yeah, I would definitely love to see them with, if you ever went, I would go, but we'll see if they tour. But yeah, Girls Like You is like an amazing song. Like I'm shocked that it doesn't get more. It's going to be one of those songs that someone's going to pick it put it into a soundtrack, and it's going to blow up, I feel like.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I was talking with so Ash likes them a lot too, and like she's seen them with me, I think twice or maybe all 3 times, I forget. But she really, Girls Like You is like hands down her favorite song by them, and she's like, I don't know how this song never blew up. She's like, I don't know how it didn't end up on like Gossip Girl or something, like, you know, like one of those shows, or Grey's Anatomy, where if like they threw it in there, like it would probably blow up like overnight, even more so. Like it was a single, I think, in New Zealand, but it's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, somebody I mean, I don't know. It's just very like. I think maybe the issue with it is it does have like a long, like 1 or 2 minute sort of synth like outro.
Yes, it does because it's I think because it's the last song on the album, so that's why it's got that like riff at the end of it. But
yeah, but
it's good stuff.
Anyway, but good choice, young Nick. Thanks. I feel like it's a rare win-win for both of us.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, anyway, so moving on to housekeeping here. So, if you want stickers, you can go check that out. You can get stickers at the Mountain Wanderer or Spinner's Pizza Parlor in Andover, Mass. And then, Nick, do we have any more patches left?
We've got
wants patches.
Plenty of patches. I got to get some patches to you too next time we see each other. I forgot to exchange stickers and patches when we last saw each other.
Yeah, we can do that at Katahdin, so we'll have plenty of time to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so stickers are $2.50 each, so you can get those mailed directly to your door. Just send us a Venmo to the Slasher Venmo. You can hit us up over Instagram if you want the details on how to get that. And then we've got swag if you want to order anything on our Bonfire shop. Choose between our super popular hoodies, classic or V-neck t-shirts, and more. Color selection's great, and they're priced to move. And then if you want to donate to us, you can go to Slasher's Buy Me a Coffee site. Donations help us pay for web hosting, distribution, live events, and Nick's bicycle lessons. So feel free to do that. And then if you want to check the box to become a monthly supporter, you can do that as well.
Yes, and we thank all our senators.
We do, yeah. Thank you very much. I guess that's what you call the senator if you do a monthly deal there. So
yes.
Hey, hold my beer. It's time to find out what Mike and Stomp are drinking. On this week's Beer Talk.
All right, now's the part of the show we talk about what beer we're drinking. I am not drinking a beer, Nick, because I'm injured, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But are you drinking anything?
I'm not drinking anything tonight, but I did have some brews over 4th of July weekend, and I wanted to shout out this newer light session IPA I found. I'm calling it a dad beer because it's like 4%, it's like 95 calories, so you can have a few without being concerned about like maybe your status and what you're doing. But it's Cloud Candy Light by Mighty Squirrel. So they're down here in Mass. They make a Cloud Candy and a double Cloud Candy, and I accidentally picked it. Like I didn't realize it was the Cloud Candy Light version that they make, but it's super tasty. I brought some when we wrapped up our Osceola hike, and I think Peter and Tom and Paul G all had one and really enjoyed it. And kind of it's one of those beers, like it doesn't taste like a light beer. Like I think especially for an IPA, sometimes they're kind of tough going when they try to sort of limit the calories and the taste, but it's really good, and I recommend it's a good July beer, especially when it's like 95 degrees and you're not really looking to drink like an 8% double IPA or something.
Right. Yeah, I think I've had the regular Cloud Candy, which is like a blue can. So this sounds like just another version. It's always good.
Yep. Yeah, these are blue with a little orange on the bottom is how it gives it away.
Similar theme.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I did pick up, I got Sebago Brewing Company. I got Fry's Leap, which is a kind of a tip to, on Sebago, there's Fry Island, and then across from Fry Island, there's like a set of cliffs that you're not supposed to jump off of. I've been busted by the cops jumping off of those before, but it's called Fry Leap. And it was kind of cool to have. They sell them in 6-packs, so it's a 12 ounce.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat.
Yeah.
Little landmark there.
Right. Yeah. So just watch out for the cops. Believe me, they'll bust you.
I knew we should have gone left back there.
Stomp, don't worry. I know it's this way. I've got a feeling in my gut.
Are you sure you're not about to have a bowel emergency?
Totally. We got this.
But I just blew out my hip. Fell down that gully with my 40-year-old microspikes.
Suck it up, Stomp. It's 4 p.m. We're at 3,500 feet. We got 9 miles back to the parking lot. Your leg may be broken. We got no cell connection, and we can't feel our fingers. But we're finishing all of my list tonight. By the way, I need some water. I'm empty.
I would if I could see what I'm doing, but my headlamp batteries are dead.
You gotta be kidding me. What a chump. This is the last time I hike with you.
Whatever, mister. Do you know me? I have a podcast.
Whatever.
Let's find out what Mike and Stomp have been hiking.
All right, Nick, here is the part of the show where we talk about what hikes we've been on recently. So I got one hike I can add here, but you've been to a couple of different places here. So where you been?
Yeah, so it's been a few weeks since we've recorded, since we had the So You Wanna last week. I took a day off. It looked like pretty nice. This was back on Thursday, June 25th. I think it was Thursday anyways. And wanted to get out with Rylan and do something. Was looking for things in her sort of wheelhouse as far as what we've figured out she can sort of do with elevation and mileage. And ended up finding this hike called Mount Norwottuck, which I'm sure it's familiar with people in the Amherst area. I've never been out to Amherst. Short of seeing UMass Amherst probably when I was applying to college there a long time ago. And it's out in this area, the Holyoke Range. So it's right around Amherst. I think the Holyoke Range is a part of the bigger Monadnock Metacomic Monadnock Range. Sort of goes across all these interesting little craggy sort of cliff-like peaks. I think Norwottuck's only around 1,300 feet, so it's not big, but the loop we did was maybe 5 miles and like 1,200 feet. Really ledgy. Had some nice little scrambly sections. We did this loop with this thing called Rattlesnake Knob that had some views. It was maybe like 1,000-ish feet. And then you go by this thing called the Horse Caves, and not to dive super much into the history, but if you remember Shays' Rebellion in the recesses of your brain from probably when you learned about the Revolutionary War, a little bit bigger of a thing in mass, but it's basically legend that the horses and sort of people from Shays' Rebellion actually hid out here in these caves way back in, I think it would have been sort of the late 1700s, sort of before we became a country, but kind of post-Revolution War, where things weren't always like super great with everybody wanting to do the same thing as far as what the government was going on. So you can look at that if you want to, but that was all really neat. And then afterwards we did a swim at Puffer's Pond, which I believe was in Amherst, and kind of cooled off a little bit. So that was super nice. And then on the 3rd, ended up back at the Osceolas, which I was at last time I was in the Whites. Peter needed them for summer. None of us wanted to do a super long hike with how hot it was supposed to be. We met there at 6:30 a.m. We had me, Peter, Tom, and then we had Paul Lamar and Paul Gamel. So we had the two Pauls, Peter and Tom. And we went out and back basically to East Osceola, and we tagged on the side trip once again to Middle and West. Peter reminded me too that if you are going for the trail right, so Middle and West are on the trail right 72 list. And if you are getting those, I forgot one unique thing about that list is you can only count one peak per trip. So I had to get out there again to be able to count it, and I guess it goes with a whole list too, which could end up getting interesting for like north-south twin, like things like that. So definitely remember that tidbit if you are filling that list out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a good day. It was really warm. We started at 6:30. By the time we were coming down around 1, it was like super toasty. I was surprised to see how many people were headed up midday. Maybe around 70 degrees when we started. It was definitely in the mid 80s, close to 90 by the time we finished. But a solid day. There was a little bit of Canadian wildfire haze, kind of breezy when we were on Osceola the first time. And by the time we came back from east, I think over Osceola again, we were like, yeah, it's freaking hot out. So wasn't too bad out to west. That was funny that the only people that had signed the middle canister was, there was nobody that signed the middle canister since we had been out there with Sarah Beth and Jay. So that was kind of neat. And Lamar found the canister this time on middle. I actually missed it. So we signed west, signed middle, headed back down. I jumped in the Mad River on the way home in sort of the junction of Upper Mad River Road and 49, which was fantastic.
Nothing better than jumping in a river on like a 100-degree day.
Oh God, it was so good. Yeah, I just had grabbed like a cold Gatorade. I mentioned I packed a cooler full of cold Gatorade and ice and a couple beers that we enjoyed in the parking lot on the way down on our Helinox chairs, which was good.
Nice.
And that was fun. And yeah, I just hopped in the river with like a cold Gatorade and sat there for like 30 minutes before I went home, which was a really good decision and cooled my body core off a bit. But
right.
Yeah.
It's been really hot. So yeah, I didn't get out last weekend. Like I think I had mentioned that earlier in the episode, but I did get out on the 26th and did Mount Isolation. So our friend Jake finished his 4,000 footer list. So he's been hiking forever and he's been doing a bunch of redlining activity, but he hadn't finished his 4,000 footer. So that was the day that he actually got out. We were going to do it like 2-3 weeks ago, but the weather wasn't good. So we finally got an absolute perfect day for it. So we had a group of, I think there was probably 12 of us overall, but there was split into a couple of different groups. So we parked cars at the Rocky Branch Trail, and then I took myself and who else came with me? Oh, my friend Jay was there, and then Steve Eats Shit. So the three of us went and started a little bit ahead. Oh, and then Peter and Jackson as well. So, Steve wasn't with us. That's right. It was Peter and Jackson and Jay. And then a group. So we started a little bit ahead. There was another group of Cindy, Lynn, and Julie that had started even before us. So we basically everybody kind of caught up to each other at Glen, Boulder, and the groups kind of came together. And then we went up to Davis Path, hung out on Davis Path Junction for 20 minutes because some of the crew went to Boot Spur. I just sat on my butt and relaxed, and then headed down to Isolation. So we went and tried to find the canister for North Isolation, but we couldn't find it. So
North Isolation, huh? I didn't know that was actually a thing. Is it right off the trail?
Yeah, it's maybe 100-foot, 200-foot bushwhack out to North Isolation. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
That whole area there is just it's all blow downs, and it's trail is clear now, but it looks like a bomb went off in that section. Yeah, and then we went to Isolation. We were waiting for Cindy and Julie had they were a little bit behind us, so we waited for them to get there, and then we had we had shots on the summit and took a bunch of photos, sat in our chairs for a while, and then started heading down. That's when I started having trouble. So I had trouble on the previous hike I had done on the Pemi River Traverse the last mile and a half or so. I got this weird sharp pain in my quad, on the inside of my quad above my knee. And then I started feeling it right when we started coming down from Isolation. I was like, crap, this is going to be a long hike out. So I was struggling badly. Normally I'll go downhill at 22 minutes a mile. I was doing 30 minutes. And every time I bent my leg, it felt like just agony. So it's I did a little bit of ChatGPT doctoring, and I think it's a vastus medalis oblique, so they call it a VMO strain, probably a type 1. So I'm just resting right now, and otherwise walking and everything's fine. It's just the downhill bending the leg was a sharp pain. So slow going getting out. And Rocky Branch Trail sucks. I hate that trail.
Yeah, I've never, a lot of people I was talking with Peter and them on the way out, and they're like, oh, you've never done that. I've only done in the winter. I've never gone down that way. I think I've done Isolation 3 or 4 times, and it's always been out and back from Glen, Boulder, but they did not have anything good to say about that trail on the way out.
No. Yeah, I mean, we did parts of it when we did but we did Engine Hill and ISO Express for the winter
that's fair.
So
that's fair.
But yeah, it's just not a good trail. I'm not a big fan. But anyway, but I think I'll be resting until Katahdin will be my debut. But I think that's it. Let's skip the notable hikes. I do want to give one shout out to listener. Let me just see here.
I was saying, congrats to Jake for finishing the 48 officially finally. No, he's done a ton of stuff.
Yeah, and I had Jake and Julie came over to Papa's Beach and hung out for the night, and everyone decided that they liked Jake and Julie. My brother-in-law's and his girlfriend decided they liked Jake and Julie better than me, so which is understandable, I get that. So. Anyway, but let me see here. I had I wanted to give a shout out to one of the listeners, even though we're not. So we're going to skip the We're going to skip notable hike of the week, but I'll just give a shout out. Jake Fletcher, he had tagged us and does some cool hiking with his wife and family and stuff. So shout out to Jake, listener, and we'll get to the remaining listener or notable hikers of the week next week. But why don't we just go into our guest of the week here, Nick?
Sure. So we've got our friend Amy, our new friend Amy, who is kind enough to come on, take her time. She's the manager over at the Flume Gorge, one of my childhood sort of spots that I always think back to of going to New Hampshire. And she also was on Pemi, sort of back during their formation. So we had a really interesting conversation with her, and we'll go into that right now.
It's time for Slasher's Guest of the Week. Very cool, very cool.
So we're super happy to welcome Amy Swift, who's joining us. She's the manager of the Flume Gorge. She's also been a bit involved with Pemi Search and Rescue back a little while ago. I think hiker, avid mountain biker.
Yes.
So thanks for joining us tonight, Amy.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. This is exciting. I enjoy your show.
Well, thank you for listening. We appreciate it. So do you want to maybe introduce yourselves a little bit to the listeners beyond maybe what I kind of mentioned there?
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm the manager at the Flume Gorge, but even more so, I'm part of the whole hiker community and outdoor recreation community. And just a lot of what my job is a pleasure because we talk to all kinds of people who come to Franconia Notch, whether they're hiking or passing through to do other activities. We're a big part of that community. I've been active with the state now for somewhere around 27 years, working in all different capacities, as many of us do in the state parks.
Very cool. So it's funny, we were going back and forth a little bit through email before you kind of hopped on and chatted. And I kind of mentioned, and I've mentioned it too on this podcast a few times, but the Flume Gorge is super nostalgic for me. So I was kind of stoked to get somebody on once we sort of got a name. And you were kind of mentioning that you had a similar experience with sounds like you grew up sort of in the Lakes region of New Hampshire, and kind of mentioned these like loops through like Crawford Notch as a kid and camping and sort of how it led you down this path. So did you want to chat about that a little bit and sort of how you ended up where you are?
Yeah, I'll share that. That's a big part of how I ended up there was, as a kid, we're in the Lakes region, so you're already in a playground, right? You have the lakes. But when I was, my mom was the one who raised myself and my two brothers. And for summertime, when she had some time off, we'd take off in the car and you'd go for a picnic lunch day. But almost every summer, we might end up at the Flume, and that was one of our big days out. We weren't going to do a whole lot beyond that, except that what mattered was she got us out there, and we would stop at different swimming holes, but that would be like the highlight, and then a big picnic lunch and look forward to it. But even before then, when I was just a little kid, we had some close friends that were very much like family in Bartlett. And it was a big deal every summer to go over where the old CCC camp was located, right there at the base of Sawyer River, where right by, is it Fourth Iron? And so my uncle would grab one of the big tents from the Forest Service, and we'd camp in there. You can't camp where we used to go anymore. But so my earliest memories were doing that, and he'd take my brother and go off into the Dry River Wilderness, which was always intriguing. And the whole Crawford Notch area was just the mystique of the mountains, and you just get this whole excitement to just go every year. Once I was old enough, I would end up doing some hikes. First big hike of my whole career of hiking was Mount Shakaroa, and that was a big deal. That was with my brothers. Champney Falls Trail.
Cool.
Yeah, and then once I was old enough, I'd steal my oldest brother's gear he wasn't using it, it was on my back, and started taking off, do day hikes, but get into some solo overnights, a little bit of Great Gulf action, some adventures there. Just being out there just became a part of the whole part of my life of just wanting.
Do you remember your first solo overnight?
Let's see. My very first one probably was the one in the Great Gulf. Grabbed his old Kelty internal frame pack, like one of the best made at the time, and all the gear you didn't need, and half a pound of bacon. That's how you roll and stove, and head up into the Great Gulf and sneak into a spot, kind of stealth camp with some of the other stealth campers near Spalding Lake, and just above the Sphinx Junction, and right where you're not supposed to, bad, and spending the night and hitting the Great Gulf headwall and Mount Washington the next day. And if I remember right, I came down the same way, but yeah, that was the very first time.
That's pretty brave for a first overnight.
Yeah. You get up at 4 a.m. and go hit the mountains, right?
You don't know any better.
Yeah. And I just knew it was like, I've got to live in the mountains. That's where I want to be. So over time I did. I ended up, after I left school and moved into, I was in the Sugar Hill area, and spent my time hiking and working. And I didn't start for the state till later, but my son, I have one child, and it was like, great, you're going to hike too. I got him into it, which would bring me full circle eventually. I'll tell you about that, to the Flume, but there's a whole lot to that, getting out there, and that's all that mattered. Fun things like early morning hikes, get up Lafayette before anyone else and watch the sunrise, that type of thing.
Were you like working on any lists kind of at the time, or you were just getting out and just hitting whatever you wanted to?
I've never been a list person.
Okay.
I still have 5 of the 4,000 footers, and I can't even, honestly, I'd have to count the bonds too. When I did go out there, It ended up, we were in a rainstorm, and I honestly couldn't tell you. I know we hit the summits because of our whole, I don't even think we had GPS at the time. We think we hit the summits, and I don't count them, because it's like, nah, if you can't be sure what you did, you didn't finish. No, I never been a list person. I'd kind of like to say that eventually someday I'd redline everything. I think hiking for me has always been, go see what's around the next bend, or go up a trail you've never been up before. But an awful lot of repeating it. When you fall in love with it, you just do it. Being above tree line there's nothing like it. So that's always been, you get there, and that's where you want to be. So that was a big part.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree with you there.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of go down the path of eventually working for the state?
Well, working in the private sector for a while, that was good money. Seasonal work is about all the state could offer at the time. I always wanted to get on ski patrol at Cannon, so there was a little goal there eventually.
Oh, cool.
And I had been on ski patrol in Wolfboro at a little place called Abenaki when I was 18. So Cannon was the dream. Eventually made the jump over there in winter of 2001, and just you do what you do in all the state parks positions, unless you come in as a manager to begin with, and you do every job that you can grab. So I was basically the parking lot supervisor, if you will. Not even a supervisor, really. But yeah, and then I got into ski patrol. And from there, ran the trail crew in the summer on Cannon. Before that, in 2002, I ended up down at the Flume, just working trail crew and working my way through all the positions there, just to be a part of it. They need help, you jump in, right? Ran the trail crew at Cannon for a while, and that was during my years when I did search and rescue as well. Okay. And probably the height of hiking. both my wife and I are big into hiking. We both ski patrol together. And during those years, she was also on Pemi, but we'd have a lot of fun because we'd work 4 days a week, long days, and then jump out on the trails and do some traverses. That's when we did a number of the traverses around here, Presidential, Kinsman. And then we moved on to just if there's a hike to do, we just did it every day. But so then working for the state, eventually the opening came for the Flume, and I jumped in there as manager. So it's an opportunity to live and work here full time, and I think I'm really fortunate to do that. So really
was like a management position over there kind of like, did you have your eye on that for a while, almost like how you had your goal to like be on Cannon Ski Patrol at first, or did it just kind of the opportunity went and you're like, hey, like this is gonna be awesome, or how did that work?
That for me personally, that was never a goal. I never saw myself in that position. I'm like, I'll do this all forever. But when that came along, it was an opportunity to you're in a position to grab up a full-time position with the state of New Hampshire is pretty good deal. If you can qualify and you want to do the job, it's really a great place to work. So when that came up, I got a little nervous about it. There's a lot of responsibility, but the manager at the time had been my mentor, and I ended up getting the position. So that's how I ended up there. The beauty of it is I've done most of the jobs that I now supervise, and we work as a team and great people, and meeting all the people that come to visit. That's fantastic.
So for maybe some of our listeners, if you're not, it's funny too, like with the Flume Gorge, like I know people that like really know it because like people go, then there's the people that are like, oh, that's like a tourist trap. Like I'm not going to go to the Flume, which is kind of there. And I've seen both sides of it because I've been down the touristy kind of route as a kid with parents who really didn't hike. Like my parents, we go to like the Basin and Lost River and Polar Caves and all these places, but my parents didn't really hike per se. My dad got into it a little bit later, kind of when I did. But do you want to kind of give a run through of what like the Flume Gorge is and what's the deal with what's the Flume? Yeah, sure.
So the Flume's like the history of it has been bringing people here for a long time, over 100 years, more than 100 years. There's the 2 mile walking trail is really just the basics. So people walk in and go, gee, I've never been here. So our big explanation is pretty simple. It's like, it's going to be a wide gravel path. It's not even like our hiking of our trails that surround us there, so we're like, get yourself out there. And almost anyone can do it. They're mountains. It's still up and downhill. But
it's about, what's it, about a 400-foot elevate up and down?
Yeah. It's not even much, so it's like 1,300 feet to start. You drop down to the river. The highest you go is 1,600 feet. And then you're dropping back down to the river and back up a hill. But so we just tell people, you can spend an hour and a half, you can spend half the day, but it's 2 miles long. You take your time. And if you can just go in, people go in and they're like, I don't know, maybe skeptical even, and they get in and they see the gorge itself. That changes their mind. But what we find is, especially families, can my kids do it? Well, yeah, you can do it. So it's the kids get out there. It's easy walk for most of them. And then they just get lost in the whole mystique of the gorge itself. And then they continue on in the boulders. The boulders are the hit. Of course, we have the Wolf's Den for the kids, that type of thing. But that's what we tell folks. Certainly, almost anyone can walk it. You don't need special equipment. You don't even need to know how to read the map yet. And you've got this 2 mile walking trail through the woods, up and down hills. You can get the sense, and you're right in the mountains. You get the views. We talked about the view of Liberty and Flume. And they get to see that while they're out on the trail as they're coming back. Yeah. So it gives them that taste of the woods, the deep woods and the mountains and the rivers.
Yeah, and the namesake. So what's the gorge, kind of the namesake of the whole 2-mile loop? I know too. There's a couple different attractions like Liberty Falls. Like you're going to pass a couple different geological sort of features and stuff. But what is like the gorge itself?
Yeah, the gorge itself is about 700 feet long. It's granite walls, and it was formed before. It was about 200 million years ago, as the geologists have explained to us. So you have your bedrock of granite. The basalt, the lava, the magma was pushed up through, and with time and ice and freezing and thawing and just water, that basalt wore away, and it left us this 700-foot long cut in the granite where the brook flows down through. But you're walking on our boardwalk all the way up through, and the boardwalk's above the water. Definitely, we've never had issue with too high of water. So when the water's up, you're above it enough, but it leaves you that, 90-foot walls at the center above you, looking up at that, and going up through. They're right next to waterfalls, and you come around the corner, and especially this year with all the water, then you have Avalanche Falls kind of as the climax near the top before you finish out of the gorge and head on your way over to the pool and Liberty Gorge.
Yeah, that's the part that always like blew me away as a kid, is you have these like boardwalks that are literally drilled in and constructed right along the side of the gorge. And like you said, you're above sort of the running water. And in there too, it's like no matter what time of year, it's always like a cold breeze. If you're there in the winter, it gets really cold at the mouth of that gorge too. I've had that happen. But it's like nature's air conditioning with the cold water sort of running in between the rocks and stuff. And there's all this like fascinating fauna with like moss sort of growing out of the walls, and like trees kind of bending up and arching like out into to get any little bit of sunlight. And to me, it's just always been amazing that someone even like ever found that it exists. It's kind of seems like you could easily sort of walk past it.
Right. So there's a lot of stories behind that. I was kind of brushing up a little, and I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but the one that we use down there is Aunt Jess Guernsey. The Guernsey family had a farm that was located right where Indian Head Resort is.
Okay.
And the story goes that Aunt Jess was like 93 years old and would take off fishing. And she found this fantastic fishing place, or she was looking for another fishing hole, found the gorge. Nobody believed her. It took her a little while, but she convinced them. And that was not only the discovery, if you will, of the people that lived in the area of the gorge, but it was kind of the beginning of what we talked about, the tourism, and that was it. Everyone was taken with it. It was so fascinated. And of course, as we were talking earlier in our emails, there's the Boulder that everyone was intrigued with. So that was something. I didn't know if you wanted me to mention that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
I will say one thing before we go off on Auntie Guernsey. Just one other thing is supposedly she lived to be 108 years old. So she discovered this when she was 93 in like 1808, but she lived. Yeah. Yes, but she lived to be, she lived another 15 years to 108, which is crazy back then. Like, I don't know how true it is, but, I don't know. It's in Appalachia, yeah.
Maybe it's because she always was hiking and fishing.
That's true. Or she found like a little bit of a fountain of youth in there. So
yeah.
I like that. I like that visual of like this spry 93-year-old woman like looking for trout in like pools and going upstream, and then she just kind of comes upon this thing like, holy moly, what's this?
Right. Why has no one found this yet? Yeah, that's great.
And then originally, so this great boulder, my understanding is originally this boulder was wedged in between the walls or somewhere up until like the late 1800s. And then what happened to it?
So up until 1883. So that boulder was wedged in there, and that was the draw. People came from, literally all over the world, just as they do today. And some of the hotels started to spring up around the whole tourism, and of course the whole push for the artistic. You had that. You had the folks coming out of the city who wanted to get away, and you had the grand hotels. So this great boulder is sitting in there, and in 1883, it was June, and Colonel Greenleaf owned the Profile House and also the Flume House and the Flume itself at that time. And so they're down there. It's raining. There's different stories about the goings-on of all the rain. So it gives you a picture of just days and days of it. And there was heard from the Flume house. There's stories that lightning hit Liberty, but at any rate, it was a landslide that began up on Mount Liberty. The book I had mentioned, I think you threw it in, so there's a quick link to it. And in that book, it's the Flume Gorge at Franconia Notch by Michael Madigan. He's done some nice research and has some good photos from all around. There's a fantastic one from, I think it was maybe even 20 years later of that slide. But at any rate, that brought down the huge slide. And of course, the brooks were just roaring at that point. That slide joined the Flume Brook, and they believe, and in inspection immediately after, that debris had built up and enough to cause enough pressure to just push everything out, including a great big slab from one side of the gorge. If you ever have a chance to see the photo that we keep at the Flume, I can point out there was also a huge slab of rock that went with that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the end of the boulder.
Yeah. Amy, do you have a way of measuring the flow of the brook to determine, like, if you know there's going to be a large or a significant rain event, do you have measuring in there so that you can get a sense of what the flow is to determine whether or not you want to limit people?
No, we don't directly. One of the things we have done is paid attention to the Forest Service, different flow places. I know during one of our...
So you can look at what the East Pemi's flowing and get a sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, when we had one of our rescues, there was a night much like that, and we kind of went off of some of that to... we were on Falling Waters Trail. And on the way down, same sort of thing. We knew that was coming up. So the group that was coming down had to do a little hustling and ended up not being able to cross back over one of the spots. So they just went down probably would have anyways, but go down that escape road we've used that comes out down below. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So we've never had that measurement. Been here a lot of years, and I've seen pictures from hurricanes past. We've been fortunate. We've never had a problem with the boardwalk because of water, thankfully. Okay. Yeah.
Now, how does it work? Do you guys have to replace the boardwalk every so often? Does it like rot pretty good, like year to year? Or I've always wondered how that works. And I know too, so if you're not, like, we can get into too, it is open in the winter and you can go check it out, but you guys rip out the boardwalk at the mouth of the gorge.
Yes.
But like, how does that all work, I guess?
Yeah. So the boardwalk, like you've seen that, about 300 feet of that boardwalk was designed to come back out, and it's all done in sections. As you may have seen, and anyone who goes in there will see those stacked up.
Yep.
And so that's a process in the fall, takes about a week. And that pretty much puts us all in a really good way as far as that section, because anything that comes out that needs attention, we'll get it immediately, or as we're rebuilding, we rebuild sections. And then we're constantly watching the permanent parts, but those aren't in the water as much. But the ones we pull, if we didn't pull them, the ice would crush it when it comes down.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's also up at Avalanche Falls. So always a fascinating thing. You talk about winter. We've been encouraging folks, come on in once we open it back up to, I call it at your own risk hiking. So basically, we put up the similar signage that you might see anywhere, except to let people know that it's not like summer, you're on your own, but great place to get a taste for winter hiking without exposing yourself too far into the more difficult places to go winter hiking. You really are in a pretty tame area.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great spot. It's probably one of the first spots that I'd gone snowshoeing in, and I don't even know, this was probably 27. It was before I was married, so it's probably 2016. Like, I don't know how long it's been open the winter, but we noticed people in any event going around to the side and kind of popping through there. There was a snowshoe path, so I'm like, I think we're good. But the views up to Liberty and Flume when you descend down kind of over the covered bridge are pretty incredible. You don't really get that in the summer.
Yeah.
And it's just super peaceful there. And like you mentioned, you can go up even past like over, so you kind of loop off over the top, and you can still see like Avalanche Falls in the winter.
Yeah.
You definitely need spikes or something if you're going down the boardwalk close to it, but
Yeah.
it's a very cool thing to check out. And for some reason, I don't know if it's like a selfish thing or whatever, but it's neat to be there when it's like only you. Like I've been there before with just me and my wife and my daughter when she was really small, and we were like the only people there. It was like a Sunday morning or something,
Right.
on like an off holiday week, and it's really neat to have the place to yourself.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It's pretty awesome. I encourage folks. The only thing we'll ask, I'll say this as someone who's doing a lot of maintenance with the trail crew. If we're closed, it's because we're doing maintenance. But we try to announce it. We try to put it on our website to really let people know that, usually mid to late November and then mid to late April, we just have a period of time where we're like, okay, so you got to give us time to cut trees, put the boardwalk in, put the signs out, or the opposite. But in between, I'll put up trail maps to try to help people. And I just encourage folks, follow the hike safe rules. And make sure you're bringing microspikes. I get folks who get started, and then as soon as you get to the hills, they're like, whoa, this is slippery. So yeah, microspikes are definite. At least bring them along. You never know what the ice is going to do. And then we only ask that just let the ice climbers go in the gorge because they're equipped. But I encourage folks, if you have time and you want to get out in the winter, the DOT plows out 2 of the lots for us. You'll see right where our ticket booths are now. I'll open up that gate. I'll have a little bit of a kiosk set up with some information. And people are absolutely welcome to come and enjoy some winter time out there because it's a pretty special place to see. You don't often get to see water or ice formations like that in nature. Not right there, not like that without traveling way into the back country.
Yeah, it's such a great, and like you kind of capped off at the top of the conversation, I guess, that is a great jumping off point. Like I think of like full circle, even with you mentioned going there as a kid, and now you're working there as a manager.
Yeah.
I have a little bit where it's like I started, my parents are generally non-hikers, and it kind of got me, and I literally remember standing at like that last viewpoint, probably past like the Wolf Cave or Cub Cave, I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
And there's a nice cutout of Liberty and Flume, and I remember asking my like parents there if you could hike those mountains. They're like, I'm not and stuff. So now it's funny to think in retrospect. But full circle of going up there now and taking my kids up there and also being a trail maintainer. So it's kind of cool to think how that place really can get a lot of people into, I think, hiking in the mountains, even if you've never done it before. It's very accessible. It's very educational. It's a great spot. It
is. I find it really rewarding too. You'll get folks that have some experience hiking, and then you get the people who've never hiked in the Whites, and they come in for information, and you pull out the big map and you start discussing the hiking trails and where have you been, and give them the big picture of what we have to offer in the White Mountains. And more than once, I've helped them get started and say, we have Mount Pemi, and we have Artist Bluff, the infamous Artist Bluff that everyone knows in the fall as being so crowded, but certainly Lonesome Lake, and they get a taste for it. And if we can direct people, it can be really, really rewarding for us too when you get these folks that come back and go, wow, I've hiked the West, I've hiked in Europe, I've never hiked in the White Mountains. They are respectable. Look at these things. They're like, how do you folks deal with all the rocks? How do you deal? Like, I don't know. That's how we are. That's our hiking. What do you think? And they do. They love it, but they didn't expect how rugged the White Mountains would be. So,
do you ever bump into people, especially like in the early or the late spring season, where they're like, "Oh, I'm going to go up the Flume Slide Trail," and then you're like, "Oh, no, sir, you don't want to do that."
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. We hand out advice. We hope people will listen to us. On my staff, I have a number of people who have dedicated their lives to hiking on their free time. They really love it. And the folks who don't hike and work with us there, they have a good sense of what we're trying to do. And more often than not, we're like, it's maybe not a good time of year to do Flume Slide, or right. Gee, it's 5:00 and I don't think you really want to do the ridge today. But let's talk about tomorrow. Or maybe there's this short hike you could do at 3:00 in the afternoon and then prep for tomorrow or something, and help folks with weather and all that type of thing. So we're kind of a all over information center. But
so before having to go out and rescue them like you've done before, you're more proactive now, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Hey, you need a map. We have maps, and yeah, very much so. Yeah.
And then you've been involved in search and rescue for a long time, right?
For a while, yeah. When Pemi Search and Rescue was birthed, when Alan Clark had the great idea, which it was, and convinced Todd Bogardus and others to listen, that we had a group of people that were very willing to fill in the gap. And, we had the sad loss of Patrick down here in Lincoln, and we'd had other search and rescue incidences that they could have used a professional or, a volunteer team to fill the gap. And it was a need. Avsar was there, and Mountain Rescue Services was there, and Upper Valley was there. So we were kind of a lot of hikers and some climbers who were very much, we kind of affectionately called ourselves the grunts, because we didn't know a whole lot, but we knew we loved to hike. We knew we wanted to give back to the community, and we knew that it could be us out there that needs help. So we started literally as the people that Fish and Game could count on to spend the night carrying someone out. And once Brian Abrams, who's gone now, but with Fish and Game, taught us how to do a proper line search, along with Sam Sprague, we became pretty good at that too. So the early years of Pemi were a lot of fun, a lot of camaraderie. I'm really proud of that group. They've come so far from that ragtag group of the grunts that earned the respect of others and really loved what we did, to what they are now. They're doing everything. But, I miss doing it. I can tell you that. But you hit a point in your life where you're like, it's time for, you step away from it, but I'll always support. So, when I was doing it, I did a few years under Gareth Slattery as captain, and then he said, we need a new captain, so I took it on. I think it was about 5 years I did that as captain.
Wow. So before Pemi even exists, so you touched on this a little bit. I know that there was, I don't know if Patrick McCarthy, for the listeners, if you're not familiar, was a young boy. He was, I don't know, there was some kind of he was on vacation with his family and went missing by Whaleback Mountain and was found. But it was like a 3-day search, I think. Yeah. So I think that was one of the big searches that was just an ongoing. And unfortunately, at a sad ending, they found him deceased. But I think that was one of the early searches that sort of was that ultimately what pushed everybody to say, like, let's get organized and actually form Pemi.
That was a big part of it. And the other part was traditionally on this side of the mountains. We were asking fire departments to fill in, and I was on the life squad in Franconia as well. I remember being a part of Franconia Notch State Park at the time, and also on the life squad. And those of us on the life squad were asked to go in on a Skookumchuck carryout, and you end up out all night, but you don't have the resources. So once Pemi was established, it really did. It filled a gap. I remember chatting with Rick Wilcox one day over at IME. He goes, "Hey, you're on Pemi." I said, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "Well, I got to tell you." He goes, I don't mean anything by this, but we're awfully glad you guys are willing to do all those carryouts now." And I said, "No, I hear you. We hear you." Right. So,
and I think having the fire department like that is the worst case scenario, because it takes people out of their ability to respond to the local. That's what it took even up until what was 6 or 7 years ago, where Lakes Region finally came out, and they were relying on the local fire department. So it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's so fantastic to know Lakes Region is there, and you see them. It's like there was a void down that way, the Sandwich Range. And it's just really wonderful. We have these volunteer fire departments and ambulance services, and they're just taxed, and we can't refill them. But now we have search and rescue filling that gap. It's really an amazing community.
So in this episode, we actually have an article where the local newspaper interviewed Alan Clark, and they asked him some of his most memorable rescues. So we should just ask you the same question.
Oh, let's see. I think one of my most memorable rescues would have been, we were called out for a gentleman on Jefferson, so we were helping Avsar. And actually, I think Joe Lentini was on that, but it was a long time ago. So it was in August. It was really warm and humid. And we get up there. He had, if I remember right, he was a big guy, tall, and he broke his ankle severely. I mean, some of the Avsar folks and Mountain Rescue were setting up some spots where it's steep. They're setting up ropes. The rest of us were going up. We were at the base of the cone, if I remember right, and we began our carry. And someone I can't remember who was in charge on Fish and Game that day, but the National Guard was in Afghanistan, if I remember that part right. And they actually talked to DART. And they set it up. We had no wind that day. And we carried this guy down to an area where they could actually do a hot load and get DART to take him. And I think he just barely fit. He's, very tall. And they don't do that usually. So we got him in there, and he was on his way. And we're like, wow, this is fantastic. Let's get going. So I get a phone call from Alan Clark. What are you doing? And me being smart, I'm hiking, of course. And he goes, no, you have a second one. We're like, all right, where is it?
Oh,
so we had a lady off of Garfield, in between Garfield and Lafayette, and she had broken her leg. So we gathered the crew up and headed up Scoop, dropped down into Garfield, kind of into the rabbit hole in the dark, picked up more of our group that could make it for that one. And we spent the rest of the night carrying her up out of the call between the two mountains, up to Skook and back down Skook. And by 4 a.m.
God bless you people. That's all you.
By 4 a.m., we were getting down low, and Solo under, oh my goodness, his name is, I'll get his name in a second. He brought his students up and helped us with the end of the carry out. And, you'll never forget some of those long nights with an amazing long night, but you're just going, this is great, you're dead dog tired, but you've looked back on it and you're like, wow, what a trip, and the camaraderie of it all, I think that's probably what drove all of us in the early days.
Right, yeah. I think you're talking about Chris Beebe, right?
I know. Wow, I can't. This is terrible. He'd be upset with me if he knew.
Oh, that's fine.
His name. He'll come to me. Sorry.
I actually do. You probably listen a little bit, so I track all the media reports, and I do pull together like those clusters, like you're talking about.
Yeah,
and they do happen. Like in 2022, there was like 3 days where there was 3 separate rescues that went on.
Yeah,
and then 2024, there was 2 days where you had like 4. One day was 4 rescues. So they do cluster together sometimes.
Do a lot. Yeah.
The Solo, we've had some people from Solo on, and they always say that. They're like, we always know if we have a weekend class in the summer, there's going to be a call.
Right.
And we're going to get some action. So
right.
I don't know. They just seem to know.
Yeah. We were never so glad to see all of them as that last end of the night. We're like, yeah, thank you. And it wasn't even a mile left, but you know what? You're grateful. Yeah. Yep. But awesome. there were plenty of rescues that were, you have the happy endings, or it's just a night that just went well, and there's plenty of them. And this is where you really feel for the folks that are still doing it, and you're really proud of them for doing it. And the ones that aren't such a happy ending are a little tougher, because the outcome is not going to be that you're going to be able to bring someone back home. But certainly really support them. We really talk about search and rescue with our folks who come to visit at the Flume, and try to get that education out and help them understand what's going on out there and how they can be a part of taking care of themselves out there.
Yeah, I mean, especially now, even since I've been sort of on the podcast and following a lot of these things like Mike does, and I listened before, but it's amazing to think of a world sort of without Pemi when you read all these media reports with Pemi started kind of coming in and being involved, it's pretty incredible to imagine that it didn't exist not really that long ago.
Yeah. It's interesting to think back. I mean, time flies. So it's been a bit now. Oh, and it's Bill Kane, by the way. I knew it would come to me.
Oh, there it is.
Don't tell him. I hope he doesn't listen. Oh, that's terrible. But it hasn't been that when you think of the long history of mountain rescue. But when you look at how each group has formed and filled the gap and brought themselves up, and now even with Cannon Mountain Ski Patrol, we're ski patrollers, but we're looking at it in the bigger picture now too. And quite often we're on the phone with Fish and Game when we have a lost skier, and I'm hoping eventually that will develop into more than just sending the rescuers out to be the only ones that have to be out there. That we have capable skiers who ski the backcountry right on our patrol. That we might save a whole lot of time and resources by being able to get going on that type of rescue. We had one last year off of what's called off of the Cannon area. And so I'm sure in the future we'll see more of that. Everyone's in the backcountry on their skis now too. So that should probably grow.
Awesome. Well, Amy, we want to thank you first for your service too on Pemi for all those years. I'm sure did some great work there, and thank you for your time again, kind of coming on and chatting. I love chatting about the Flume Gorge. I could talk about it for hours, so I'm not going to dive any more. But thanks for filling us in, and thanks for your time.
My pleasure. And as a state park employee, we really hope people will come and visit it. We didn't get to touch back on it, but it is a place generations will come back. I had a lady today who brought in a picture of her grandmother from 1925 who had visited the Flume.
Oh, that over 100 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
So
That's
you've got
cool.
families now that are bringing grandkids. So it's a great place. Get them started. Bring them over to the desk. We'll put them on a scavenger hunt to keep them occupied and get their eyes open.
Beautiful.
To nature.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it's all over.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. When my kids were little, it's actually, I did the rounds. I'd go to Lost River, I'd go to Polar Caves, I'd go to the Flume Gorge, we would go to, all those areas. And it actually is perfect, especially the little ones when they're old enough to walk. Because the whole point of having these little kids, you got to tire these kids out.
Yeah, right.
It's a perfect, it's a 2-mile loop, and you've got 3 or 4 different things. You got the pool, and you've got all these different waterfalls and stuff. They're exhausted. And even if they're not working out that hard, mentally, they're so overstimulated that those little kids went right to napping, and then we could get right to drinking.
There you go.
So it's a very important service that you're giving to parents that way.
Yeah, we understand. There's a lot of parents who work there. It's we're going, yep, been there, done that.
Got to tire those little ones out.
Perfect.
So, but no, this is great, and it's interesting history, the early days of Pemi. Definitely, probably want to have you on again to maybe talk about some of those early rescues in more detail. But we appreciate you. I know it's been a long day for you, and it's been great chatting and getting to learn a little bit about the Flume.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it too, and I'll keep listening to your show.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Amy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Doop. All right, Nick. Yeah, Amy's awesome. A wealth of knowledge and history, and doing a cool job over there at the Flume Gorge. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have her back on, I think, for some future topics, Flume and maybe some search and rescue stuff.
Nick, just to wrap this up here, so we've got some other search and rescue stories going back to June. That's one thing I'll say. I'll start off with a lot of people online are oh, search and rescue's out of control, and we're spiking way more. I did do a tally, Nick, and I think the numbers are a little bit above average, but not much.
Yeah, we're right.
So I think if people are saying rescues are out of control, not the case.
Yeah, I mean, people are getting out there. I was curious with this sort of. I sent you and Stomp the screenshot from this week, and it looked like a lot. I mean, it's more certainly, but apparently it's right in line with where we normally are. So
very common. See the big spike in June, July, August, and then you'll see that September, October can be a mix. But yeah, you'll just see this big spike here. So I think that it's pretty consistent.
Yes.
The thing about it though is that the amount of time it takes for the rescue crews, like Amy talked about, like heavy carryouts of people that are larger can be difficult. A couple of like long searches can blow through a budget. So not all rescues are the same.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we'll start off here. This is kind of going back into June since it's been a bit. We've got carryout of injured hiker on the Snapper Trail. So this was back on June 20th. So Saturday, June 20th, just after 12:30, the Rescue Coordination Center in Montgomery, Texas, received an SOS alert. I was like, where are they going with Texas in here? But an SOS alert from Garmin InReach device. So no other information was available at that time other than that the device had been activated on the Snapper Trail on Moose Lock. So Snapper sort of connects back. If you're doing common thing, go up Gorge Brook, go over Moose Lock to like the Carriage Road, and you kind of loop back down Snapper. Pretty common route over there. So 2 New Hampshire Fish and Game COs responded at a ravine lodge to determine if there was a need for a rescue. At 1:15 p.m., the conservation officers met up with the owner of the InReach device, who advised that his 65-year-old brother had suffered a lower leg injury as they descended the Snapper Trail, and he could not continue without assistance. So the injured hiker was located about 1 mile up the trail from where they found his friend there, or I should say his brother. And by 2:30 p.m., the rescue party had started up the trail with a litter. They arrived at the injured hiker, and his injury was stabilized, and he was secured in the litter for a carryout. 3:45 p.m., they got back to Ravine Lodge. The hiker was identified as a resident of Scarborough, Maine. The pair of hikers were very well prepared and were making their initial attempt at New Hampshire's 48 4,000 footers. And the hiker was taken by personal vehicle to Littleton Regional Hospital for his injury. So do feel bad that was sort of one of their maiden voyages to try to do the 48 and ended up with a leg injury. So hopefully it doesn't dissuade them too much, but that stinks.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, especially prepared. So what do we got next here, Mike?
So this one actually got a lot of chatter online. So this was a rescue of an 80-year-old hiker from Canada that needed had a medical emergency on Mount Lincoln. I guess he was near the summit. So he was hiking with his son. So the guy's 80 years old. He was hiking with his 45-year-old son. They hiked up Falling Waters, and then they were going across Franconia Ridge when he started having chest pains. 80 years old, Nick, going over Franconia Ridge. I guess that's impressive if you can make it, but if you can't, it's like, he's 80 years old. What are you doing up there?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the son rightly called 911 for help, and Fish and Game Conservation officers spoke with the hikers on phone and learned that the 80-year-old hiker could no longer continue due to his medical emergency. So after determining it would be numerous hours for the rescuers to reach the hikers and many more hours of carrying them down the mountain, a call was made to New Hampshire Army National Guard to assist with the hoist of the incapacitated hiker. So a flight crew came in. So 4 o'clock the call came in, and then they were able to get the flight crew dispatched and over to Mount Lincoln just before 6 p.m. So after arriving, the helicopter crew was able to lower a medic to the hikers and eventually hoist them to the helicopter. By 6:05, the helicopter was en route to Littleton Regional Hospital, so the hiker could receive further medical treatment. So, yeah, it's I don't know, 80-year-old hiker Nick going up to Franconia Ridge sounds a little sketchy to me, but maybe he's a super athlete. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if we're still hiking together by the time you're 80. I'm going to remind you of that.
Seriously, but I'll be like, I'm different. You're
like, well, I have robot legs now. I'll be fine.
Let me think about this. How long will it be till I'm 8? I'll be 26. Yeah, I'll have a robot. I'll have exoskeleton. Yeah. So.
I'll bring you a power bank and you'll be good to go.
That's good.
Be all set.
Oh my God, you could withhold my power bank and leave me up there.
Yeah, I mean, so you get to treat us nicely.
That's true. That is true. You'll be 20 years younger than me, right?
Roughly, I think I'm 30. I'm gonna be 36, and you're
54.
54.
So 19 years.
Yeah.
19 years. So
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So you'd be the spry 61-year-old or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
I'll be like, oh, I know what you guys are talking about.
Oh, my back.
Like, oh, my quadricep.
Oh, my God.
Okay. All right. So next up, we got on June 25th, injured hiker rescued from Valleyway. So Thursday, June 25th, at approximately 2:45 p.m., Fish and Game was notified New Hampshire State Police Dispatch, regarding an injured hiker on the Valleyway Trail over in Randolph on the side of Madison. The injured hiker had slipped and fallen while hiking down the trail, suffered a serious leg injury. It occurred 1.6 miles up from Appalachia, so luckily not too far in. That's probably like right around the junction where you branch off and you start climbing from where the river is over there. So COs and several volunteers from AVSAR responded to the call and hiked up to the trail. Hiker was identified as a 49-year-old from Massachusetts. He had been hiking with his kids when the accident occurred, so that's unfortunate. Earlier in the day, they summited Adams and John Quincy Adams and were on their way back down when the injury occurred. So it's always it gets you on that simpler terrain after they've been out in the boulder fields all day.
Right.
It gets you right at the bottom there, which, I mean, luckily for where you're going to fall, not the worst spot. It's better than up on Adams anyways. So they put his leg injury in a vacuum splint, so that's kind of neat. And then placed him in a litter. They carried him down the trail at 5:48 p.m. and arrived back at Appalachia at 7. So pretty speedy there. So it was like a mile and a half in an hour and 12 minutes. It's pretty quick.
Not bad.
So from there, the hiker was placed in a Gorham ambulance and transported to Androscoggin Valley Hospital in Berlin for treatment. So pretty quick one there. Not if you're gonna fall, do it, I guess, like a mile and a half out on the trail where they can get into you.
That's right. All right, Nick. This next one here is Falling Waters Trail. So Pennsylvania guys. So this call came in on Thursday, the 25th, around 4:30 or so. Hiker suffered injuries from a fall in the area of Cloudland Falls on the Falling Waters Trail. So this guy had already come over he had come up Old Bridle and come across the ridge and was making his way down to Falling Waters, and came in around 4:30. The first rescue was started up the trail with a litter around 5. They got to him around 5:40, so not bad, about an hour or so. And then they secured the hiker in a litter, and then the team started moving him down around 6 p.m. Took about a mile, so they got him out at around 7 o'clock or so, put him in an ambulance, and he was off on his way to Littleton Regional for further evaluation. 42-year-old hiker from Pennsylvania had hiked across the ridge up Old Bridle and was descending Falling Waters when the incident happened. Said he slipped and fell on the wet, slippery rocks. So, yeah, it's tough there. You got to have good footing for sure. And I think that, like, at the end of a hike coming down Falling Waters, I like going that way, honestly. Like, I just like that view better coming across the ridge. But, you know, you do need to pay attention coming down. So Old Bridle's a nice one to finish on now because it's got all those fancy steps. But Falling Waters is still dangerous.
Yeah, I've yet to go down that way, and I don't know. See if it happens before. I think by the fall they're shooting to get the relocation in over there. So
I bet you the conservation office are hoping sooner rather than later. So
yeah, as much as I love how it goes through there, I definitely feel for our friends that we have that help rescue people up there. So hopefully it'll make it much better there, and there'll be less.
Right.
So a little bit later, we had Saturday, June 27th. This was an injured hiker rescued on Cascade Brook Trail in Lincoln. So approximately 11:15 a.m., a Fish and Game was notified of an injured hiker on Cascade Brook Trail in Lincoln who slipped on a rock and suffered a lower leg injury. So sort of similar scenario. Fish and Game responded to the scene while a call was made to the Pemi Valley Search and Rescue Team to assist with the injured hiker. Upper Valley Search and Rescue Team members were also in the area and were able to assist as well. So the rescuers started up Cascade Brook Trail and located the injured hiker 1.5 miles up the trail. Around 1 p.m., he was identified as a 58-year-old from North Danville, Vermont. Rescuers were able to aid the hiker in his lower leg injury and loaded him onto a litter to be carried down Cascade Brook Trail. At approximately 3 p.m., they safely carried the hiker out to the trailhead. Linwood Ambulance did evaluate him at the scene, but the hiker denied transport and drove himself home to seek further medical aid. So another slip and fall there with I know New Hampshire's kind of had a lot of rain and wet weather lately, so it seems to be a common theme.
Right, yeah. And then, Nick, this next one, unfortunately, this is a hiker fatality that happened on Mount Major. So this was on Thursday, July 2nd. 68-year-old New Hampshire resident had been hiking on his own. He was able to place a call to 911, but stopped communicating with the dispatcher. He was about a mile from the trailhead, so hikers came upon him a short while later, attempted CPR. And then along with Fish and Game conservation officers, Alton Fire Department, Police Department, Gilmanton Fire Department, the fire personnel attempted additional life-saving procedures, but unfortunately the hiker succumbed to his conditions. No further details, and the hiker's name is being withheld pending notification of the family. So that's a sad story on Mount Major for the family, the hiker, and obviously like the first responders, and then everybody else, the Good Samaritans that came by as well. So sad 4th of July for that family.
Our condolences to the family. Never like to hear about those.
Nope.
Okay, so moving on to the 4th, July 4th, we have an injured, it's funny, the title on this one, Fish and Game, I think they were just getting tired of writing the articles, but it's just injured hiker, understandably over here. So Saturday, July 4th, we had one like this not that long ago, I feel like, Mike, or maybe it was like even last fall, but July 4th, 2 p.m., Fish and Game got notified that a woman had injured her knee at Diana's Baths and was unable to walk out on her own. She was identified as a 51-year-old from Auburn, Massachusetts. So the COs, along with members of the Bartlett-Jackson Fire Department, responded. Fire and ambulance personnel were able to use a side-by-side ATV on the path until they reached a bridge that is too narrow for any vehicle to cross, and they carried a litter to her location. They treated her injury, put her in the litter, and carried her back in the side-by-side and transported her out to the trailhead around 4 p.m., where the affected person left with their family. So they do just call out that Bartlett-Jackson Ambulance and Bartlett Fire Department accept tax-deductible donations to fund the rescue operations, and just encourages people for the hike safe. I feel like we saw one of these not too long ago where it was like someone at Diana's Baths had a slip and fall and they had to get hiked out like that.
Yeah, there was one last year with the lady, like, she slipped and fell, and then she posted on, like, Facebook, like...
Oh, that's what it was.
It was, like, a silly thing, like, I went for a hike, and then she was, like, posting a selfie from the litter and stuff. It was kind of ridiculous. It's like...
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Lady, everybody's out here, like, they want to have dinner with their families. They're out there rescuing you. You're taking selfies from... It was ridiculous. Yeah. So anyway, but this next one, so multiple injured hikers here. So 4th of July around 11:15 a.m., Fish and Game were notified of an injured hiker on Georgiana Falls Trail. I'll talk about this one with you, Nick, for a second. In Lincoln, he slipped on a rock and suffered a lower leg injury. Conservation officers responded to the scene while a call was made to Pemi Valley Search and Rescue to assist. Rescuers started hiking up Georgiana Falls Trail and located the hiker at approximately 12:15. And it was a 16-year-old from Westboro, Mass. Rescuers were able to render aid to the miner's injury and load him into a litter to be carried down. At 1:53, rescuers safely carried the miner out to the trailhead, and Linwood Ambulance evaluated the hiker on the scene, and he was taken to by his parents to further. So Georgiana Falls, Nick, I've noticed on social media has become very popular. That picture of the swimming pool at the very top that looks down into Indian Head has become like very popular online. So I'm wondering if we're going to see more activity up there.
Yeah, it seems like for whatever reason it's taken off. I have a picture of you standing in that exact spot from I think we were up there almost a little over a year ago.
When we did the training for trail maintenance.
Yeah, that's right. I was trying to think when we were there, so we hit it. But yeah, I mean, it is beautiful in there. The caveat I'll say is it's a trail, I guess, technically, that goes up there, but a lot of it's like sort of washed out and eroded. You kind of find the road. And actually, you can keep going. Like, we went up even further past where that pool is and saw, like, there's still more falls past that. But it is sort of like this waterfall in a canyon. There's a lot of holes and stuff in there. You got to be careful, especially if it's wet and stuff in there. It's not like going to, like, Diana's Baths or something. It's a totally different experience than hiking to something like that. So... do want to give people the heads up.
It's like a 900-foot climb, I think.
Yeah, it's probably if you're going to like the very top to where the falls go, I want to say it's about 1,000 feet, 900-foot climb. So by no means is it like what I say it's dangerous, but like just be aware it's not like your well-beaten sort of Diana's Baths type experience to get to like swimming holes and stuff. And you got to definitely like that swimming hole. I could see like going in there, but there's spots 100% in there where you would not want to go swimming. Like you could really quite literally drop like 40 feet over a waterfall or cascade. So be careful.
Anyway, but yeah, Georgiana Falls, definitely like a great spot, but it's gonna, the kids have found out about it, I think, is the problem. So, all right. And then same time around 2:45, another call comes into New Hampshire Fishing Game. We just talked about this with Amy, is like these multiple rescues that happen. So this is at Basin Cascades Trail in Lincoln. Lady was walking her dog, got her foot caught under a root, falling backwards, hitting the ground. Conservation officers responded to the scene while a call was made to Pemi Valley Search and Rescue to assist with the injured hiker. Rescuers started hiking up the Basin Cascades Trail and located the hiker at around 3:30. Local resident rescuers are able to render aid for the lower body injury and loaded into a litter to be carried down to the trailhead. So by 5:50, the rescuers had safely carried her out of the trail to the ambulance service, and they evaluated her for medical attention. So that's it. Nick, we have, let me see. On this episode, we had covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 media reports over the last 2.5 weeks or so.
Yeah, one thing I'm glad for the search and rescue folks, but I'm surprised we didn't see any sort of heat exhaustion related injuries with the amount of people like I saw out there on the 3rd. Like, it wasn't insanely hot, but I was impressed to see how many people were headed up at like 12:30, 1 o'clock up the Osceolas that day, knowing how warm it was going to be. Like,
Right.
it was hot and brutally humid, so I'm glad we didn't see much of that.
Yeah, I'm happy to say goodbye to the hot weather for now. So we'll see if it comes back. But anyway, and speaking of saying goodbye, Nick, I think it's time to say goodbye.
All right. Bye, Mike.
Okay. Until next time.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at slasherpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are?
Here's Lieutenant James Neeland, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.